Hello, welcome to my Civ 6 tier list video. I wanted to make this since I've seen a bunch of Civ 6 tier lists, but a lot of them I am not quite on board with, and I think some of that comes down to the settings that I play on. So I don't like to play on deity. I think that changes the game to something very different. This tier list is mostly for playing multiplayer or against prince level AI or some combination of that, with varying skills with the player and also some computer players to fight as well. I'll try to make so that this tier list is centered around an average civ in the C tier, and then just tiers above that for above average and tiers below that for below average. And I should say that there are a few play styles. I'm ordering this where above average civs are, civs in S tier are the ones that are most likely to win a match. And then civs towards F tier are least likely to win a match. But there are a few play styles that I think are just more likely to win. Like, even though there are civs here that, might be very strong at a culture victory culture's victory is a bad example. Like civs that are good at a diplomatic victory, that I'll still rate kind of low, because in the games that I play, most of the time the game's over before a diplomatic victory can happen. So diplomatic centered civs, I won't rate very highly. They don't tend to win on that bonus alone. Usually it's some combination of science and domination, but I have seen culture victories as well, or even a religious victory. Diplomatic is really the only one that I see least likely to make an impact. I think the most important things to have are science and production. That makes a civ very flexible. So a lot of the civs towards the top will have production and science bonuses, especially early game bonuses, I think are very important. Anyway, I think the rest I can probably cover through while I'm ranking these civs here. So I'll just adjust this template to work a little bit better. This isn't my template. I'll leave a link, upload this to YouTube. I'll leave a link to this tier list that I'm using in the description. It's by this Sir Birdie Bird person on Twitter. Anyway, let's dive in. Starting off with my least favorite leader in the game, Abraham Lincoln. I'll go over the America bonuses first, since they're less offensive. They have this film studio, which has a powerful effect. 100% tourism is very strong, but it only coming online after the modern era is a big problem. A lot of games I find end before the game even gets to that point. Most of the time, this isn't going to do anything special. Unique units I often don't rate very highly in terms of ranking a civilization's power. And this Founding Fathers bonus as well is not great. It's really just extra diplomatic favor. The diplomatic policies becoming wildcards isn't that big of a deal. A lot of times you want to slot in at least one or two diplomatic cards anyway. So even though they're wildcards, it really doesn't make much of a difference. The main problem I have, though, is not with these America bonuses, but with the Abraham Lincoln bonus itself, this industrial zone thing. So the sounds of it makes it seem like he's supposed to be a conquering leader. It gives him free units, they have extra combat strength, but even that part isn't very strong. It's only giving you free melee units, which I think is the worst class of combat units. Well, maybe tied with anti-cav. And just all these bonuses are really not that good. No maintenance is just okay. 5 extra combat strength is very low for a dedicated combat bonus, especially when it's attached to just one unit type. And since you have to build industrial zones, that's even more of a problem. It would be way less of a problem if you had a unique industrial zone, which could be built faster. But since it's the industrial zone with no bonuses towards construction, you have to put in a lot of effort. Not only does it take a long time to get to them that you can build in the first place to unlock the tech, but building good industrial zones takes a lot of investment. Not only do you need to build the industrial zone, you need to get aqueducts, dams. Sometimes you need to combine those districts from multiple cities into one area, so you're getting big adjacencies. And if you have to do that for all of your cities just to really leverage this bonus, you're wasting lots of time. Worse yet is this loyalty bonus, or loyalty penalty, really, because the industrial zones only give +3 loyalty, but plantations give -2. Now, given that you're going to be focusing on conquering with a combat bonus, this, a lot of the times, is actually just going to hurt you. You might conquer a city with plantations and no industrial zones, and the leader's ability is actually going to lower your loyalty for conquering the city, which is not good. I just dislike this bonus. I have to rate him low, probably E tier. All right, with Abraham Lincoln out of the way, we can get to leaders that I actually don't mind as much. Alexander is overall okay. His bonus of not getting war weariness is sort of useful. In an average game, if I'm doing some conquering, I might have a few turns where my cities dip down into negative amenities and I get -10% to my yields for a few turns. So you can think of this, or at least the way I think of this, is an extra 10% in a few cities for a few turns every game. Healing on capturing cities with wonders can also be a nice little boost sometimes as you're conquering. It can save you a few turns during the course of conquering a civilization. And the rest of the Macedon bonuses are similarly just fine. This thing about getting extra Eurekas and inspirations from cities can get you just a few extra points of science and culture that you might not otherwise get, especially since some Eurekas and inspirations are difficult to trigger. But equally, it might trigger Eurekas and inspirations that are easy to get, and you won't get any value from that. So, I don't know. You'll save a few points of science and culture. The unique units, I won't spend too much time thinking about. They're okay. And this unique building for encampments is interesting. I like these kinds of bonuses where you're getting resources for building units or buildings. But in this case, I don't like it too much since it's with encampments. Encampments are a district that I don't find myself building too many of. They are pretty low on my priorities, since a lot of times I would rather just get more science or culture or gold directly by building those types of buildings. Encampments, they don't offer a whole lot of utility on their own. I might build 1 or 2 in my empire so I can build corps or armies. So I don't know how much value this is giving overall. I mean, combining with the Eureka bonus from earlier, maybe you get a considerable amount of science. But I just don't think any of these bonuses are really that strong. He may have a few of them, but I don't think I can put him any higher than C tier. Next up, we got Nubia, which is a civ which I think is similar to Alexander in that she has a lot of decent bonuses. But in this case, I think each of these bonuses is pretty strong. This 20 or 40% production towards districts can save you a few turns in every city every time you build a district. Same with the 30% production towards ranged units, which is, I think, the best combat class for units. A little bit extra combat experience for them is nice, along with the extra production from mines and gold. The unique unit, usually I don't think about the unique units too much, but in this case, I think they really are quite strong. Being stronger than an archer with extra movement is great. It's already a very strong unit. I think an archer might be one of my most built units. And the unique improvement is interesting. I like these improvements or abilities that let you make use of more land on the map. Normally, for an average civ, desert isn't very attractive, but with Nubia, you can actually build a few desert cities, get a really nice Petra city, and overall, that means you can just build more cities than other civilizations if there's a lot of desert around you. And it can even give you a little bit of a boost towards, all the yields, science or culture if you build next to those districts. A very solid civ. I got to give it B tier. Jumping over to my favorite leader in the game, Ambiorix. I'll put him right away into S tier. I'll admit that I'm rating him higher just because I like using this leader so much. I think he's fun. I think he still might be the best civ in the game. He has potentially one of the strongest combat boosts in the game. You can get up to plus 12 combat strength through your units, and it's not hard to do. You have a big boost of production with the unique industrial zone and this unique warrior replacement that you can build lots of. And not all of you don't need to have lots of very strong units. You can just cover your army with cheap units or units from previous eras that you haven't got the replacement tech for, to just beef out your army and get up to that plus 12 combat strength. And that's a gargantuan boost. That's like a whole tech level of boost to units. And early on, that makes it very easy to do lots of early conquering. I know earlier I was talking about how building lots of industrial zones can be difficult. That's why I don't like Abraham Lincoln. But this is an exception because they have this unique industrial zone where you don't need to worry about the adjacencies. It has easy adjacencies to make, and it's cheaper to produce as well. I also need to cover these culture bonuses for building units and mines and the culture bombs. It saves you lots of production and gold towards culture buildings, since you just get a decent amount of culture naturally from building units and mines. It saves you gold from having to buy tiles with this culture bomb. Just each of these bonuses is incredible. The main attraction, I think, is this combat boost, but the rest of these, they're all just solid. We have Vietnam next. They have, I'll start with the leader bonus. They have this decent combat strength bonus. Plus 5 is not huge, but since it applies to all units, even though it is just in select tiles, it applies to all units, which is good. Better yet is probably this movement bonus. Plus 1 movement is a lot. It can make so your ranged units and siege units get to tiles, of course, faster, but you can get to those tiles and then shoot where another civ might have to wait a turn. And that offers what is essentially a big combat boost to those units. I guess not even just the ranged units, just all units can sometimes get attacks where otherwise they wouldn't be able to. And having this plus 1 movement, it's not just military units, I'm pretty sure. And doubled in your territory means that you can move your builders and settlers around much easier. You can get the yields from building improvements and settling cities quicker. Just an all-round strong bonus, very unique as well. The extra yields that you get from your districts is not huge, but it's still considerable, especially considering you get this free encampment in all your cities that you may as well build since it's so cheap to make and doesn't take a specialty district slot. Those extra yields really start to add up, and that extra culture from the encampment is also quite large. Plus 2 culture from each adjacent district is not hard to make that a large bonus. Overall, I think I have to give this civ an A tier. And next we have Basil, who I'm glad I get to talk about now while Abraham Lincoln is still fresh in my memory, since he has a similar thing going on where he gets free units from building a district and buildings in that district. But instead of being melee units, it's heavy cavalry, which I think is the strongest military class. And he has this unique district, which is cheap to make to get those units quick. And it's a district that I think you want to build a lot of anyway for that amenity bonus. I mean, in normal civ, you would maybe not build loads of entertainment complexes. But since there are plus 3 amenities here and so cheap to make, it's really worth it. You get that amenity bonus to all your yields very easily. So that aspect already is quite solid. But he also gets a lot of power from this combat strength bonus. Early on, Of course, you're only maybe getting that +3 for your initial holy city, but oftentimes the AI will take a religion or whoever your neighbor is, and getting up to that +6 after your first conquest is not unusual. As the game goes on, that can still continue to stack. There's, of course, a lot of potential here. I guess on a large map, if you've conquered 6 civs, it's 8 players in a large map, right? So you could get 6 civs or however many religions there are. Maybe there's 6 overall. So I guess up to +18 combat strength. Of course, that's almost never going to happen, but it's cool that it could get that high. His built-in bonus about doing full damage to cities with the same religion sounds annoying at first to pull off. But, of course, when Byzantium kills enemy units in their territory, they exert religious pressure. So converting enemy cities and then fighting them is not actually that hard. It's not only one of the best combat bonuses in the game, I think, but also a very fun one. Although I don't mean to rate on fun. I will admit it probably does factor into my rankings of the civs at some level. I have to give an A tier, I think. Looking at the tier list, unfortunately, I can see that the next few leaders are all leaders that I don't enjoy very much. France here, the Black Queen, Catherine, is really just a strange set of bonuses here. Extra diplomatic visibility you can kind of think of as an extra 3 combat strength most of the time against civs. Although in the end game, everyone will probably have maxed out diplomatic visibility with spies and trade routes and alliances and everything. So it does eventually fall off. I guess with an early spy, you might get an extra diplomatic visibility level that otherwise might not be possible. And you get up to +6, but it's just really awkward to use. I don't like using spies that much. Maybe I should enjoy them more. Maybe there's some power that I'm underrating. Their unique improvement is also strange. Compared to other civs with unique improvements for tourism, it's not loads. Like, comparing it to, which is it? Is it Sweden with the open air museum? Yeah, like that improvement goes up to 10 tourism if you have all your cities settled correctly. I mean, I guess you could build a lot of these, but in general, I just don't like these culture improvements since I find anyway, it's hard to justify taking culture over just more production or food or whatever you build on that tile. And I think most of your tourism is going to come from archaeological museums, national parks, and rock bands. I don't know. It just none of these bonuses really stand out to me as very strong. Even the 20% production towards wonders is it's just not that appealing. And just a lot of these, like none of these bonuses give you an early game edge. I think that's maybe my biggest problem. You need something to just make the civ faster in the early games, since that's the most important stage of the game to really make them any good. I could maybe forgive them if these other bonuses were strong, but they're just not. Either C or D. I'll put the civ in C tier just because I think I may be underrating spies. Maybe I'll reshuffle that later as I rank the other civs. But let's just say C for now. The Magnificence Catherine, on the other hand, I think is just a little bit stronger. We can see that there's this +2 culture bonus on luxury resources next to theater squares, which you can get to happen very quick, and +2 culture per resource is quite a lot. The court festival project is really interesting. I would need to do more experimentation with it to figure out just how powerful it is. I don't think I've played with this leader very much, but she's at least better than the other Catherine. So I don't know if she's strong enough to go into the B tier, since she's still missing that early game power, I think. I mean, she has a little bit with that culture boost, but tier squares still, you don't want to build right away. So I'll also put her in the C tier for now. Moving on to Chandragupta. He has a really cool set of bonuses here. Religious plus a military bonus, I think, is just a very interesting combination. And I think one of the better ways of playing a religious game, since this way you can sort of bully other players into taking a religion. Like if there's a civ next to you that you're having a hard time converting, you at least have this combat bonus with this territorial expansion war that you can declare that you can just take out that civ if you can't convert them. And they have a fairly decent religious bonus as well. The +2 spreads on missionaries is quite a lot. And the stepwell improvement I like as well. Anything that provides a lot of housing, I think, is strong. Every civ that has a big housing bonus, I find that I can just get a large city online very quickly. And that, even though this is just a food, housing, and faith bonus, it's really an everything bonus. More housing means more pop, and more pop just gives you the ability to get more on all of your yields. This unique unit is also worth looking at as well. That I actually kind of hate having this civ as a neighbor, because this unit is just incredible when you can get it early, and it's also just very strong. Not only is it quite strong on its own, but that -5 combat strength just makes the rest of your army a bit stronger as well, on top of that movement and combat bonus from the territorial expansion war. Like that condition of having to declare a certain war type sounds annoying, but the conditions for the territorial expansion war are actually pretty generous. It's basically just a flat +2 movement and combat strength bonus for all your wars, since if you're conquering, you should be the one declaring war. And lasting 10 turns. 10 turns, at the end of 10 turns, the war should either be over or basically over. Like, it should be clear that you're going to win or that you need to retreat. A savvy opponent might declare preemptive war on you to prevent you from getting this, but I don't know if that's really worth worrying about. I have to put him as a solid B tier. Next, we have the base game Cleopatra, not the one that came with the leader paths. This civ I don't think is that strong. You have this subpar trade route bonus. It's just not very much compared to the other civs that have a trade route bonus, like Mali or Portugal. The production bonus is also not that big. I mean, it does come online early, but it's 15% is just not huge. And the Sphinx as well, I'm just not a big fan of it. It doesn't give that much culture. It gives lots of appeal, sure. So later in the game, you get this boost towards your national parks, and so it's a decent tourism boost, but it's not a huge tourism boost. And the rest of the bonuses don't really help you get to that culture victory quicker. I think this has to be the first D tier civ. New Cleopatra, on the other hand, I think is just a little bit better. You get +1 food and culture to resources along floodplains, and that right out of the gate can make your civ a lot stronger. That +1 culture and food is immediate, so in the early game you can get to those first set of governments quick, and that can set you up for an early conquest with oligarchy, or all the other bonuses with the other governments. And in this case, I actually think the Sphinx can do a little bit more work. +2 appeal can actually make so that you can build some really nice preserves along these floodplains, because the floodplains give +1 appeal. The Sphinx can give you +2. Very easy to get breathtaking preserves. It's gimmicky, so it's not amazing. But it's something you can do. And the preserve strat is, I think, passable. It can take a long time to set up, but it's at least not horribly weak. Still, none of these bonuses are amazing, but I think it at least moves this version of Cleopatra up a tier from the other one, so C tier. Next, we have Persia, and I think despite all of the words here, there's really only two parts of this bonus that I think are worth looking at. One, having these better roads than usual, and two, this surprise war bonus with extra movement and extra loyalty. +2 movement is effectively a very strong conquering bonus. You can get into position very quick. You can get extra attacks from all your units. So it's effectively a combat boost. 5 loyalty makes so that you can conquer cities that otherwise are difficult to hold on to. And the extra road boost is, again, just another movement boost. I think the rest of his bonuses I don't even think are worth considering. But that alone is a strong war bonus, which I think is very strong. That makes a leader much stronger than other kinds of bonuses, just because conquering early is so powerful. So I'll give him B tier. He can't go any higher since his conquering bonus isn't amazing, and it's also really the only thing he has going on. So B tier seems right. Here we have Dido, one of the most unique civs, lots of very interesting abilities here. I think it comes down to a few bonuses that are geared towards getting you settlers, or a lot of settlers, across the entire map. But the problem with that is that despite having a lot of bonuses to put settlers in awkward spots and build up a little foothold on new continents, she doesn't actually have any way of getting onto other continents earlier than anybody else, unlike, say, the Maori or Norway. So I can't give her too much credit for those bonuses. They would be decent bonuses if she had some conquering ability as well to help with getting more cities on other continents. But the Navy stuff isn't really worth writing home about. I think, aside from that, you get the extra trade routes, which I wouldn't rate that highly. I think this has to be D tier. Let's see. There. Next up, we have the Eleanor civs. First, the England one. I'll talk about the England bonuses first, and then I can talk about the leader bonuses to work into the France version as well. First is this Royal Navy dockyard, the harbor replacement. Unique districts are always nice because you can save some production on building these districts. But the bonus associated with this one isn't incredible. It's sometimes a little bit of extra gold. Really, the main bonus here is just that you can build them more quickly than a normal civ. Compared to some other unique districts, this is definitely not that strong. The harbor isn't an especially powerful district. The unique unit is also not incredible. The main bonus here at the top, the Workshop of the World, is definitely neat. There's lots of little bonuses here. Maybe the biggest one is that you get +4 of yield for powered buildings. So late game, that's a significant boost to your science and production in particular. But this is another situation where, even though there's a late game bonus, there's no way of getting to that late game bonus quickly enough for this to really matter. So that leaves the leader bonus here. And this has to be one of the more annoying leader bonuses in the game. It has to do with lowering loyalty of other civs around you. I have never seen this do anything substantial. I don't think this leader is very good. So I gotta rate her quite low. Probably C or D tier. I'm going to say D tier, definitely below average. The next version of Eleanor similarly below average, I think. I think I already mentioned that the France bonuses are on their own not especially strong. So she might be a little weaker than the other versions of France, but I think roughly on the same tier. The leader bonuses aren't incredible in either case. So another D tier, I think. Another England leader here. Should make this nice and easy. Just have to look at the leader bonus here. It's a decent trade bonus. Plus 3 gold for every specialty district. So let's say you're trading out of a city with 3 or 4 specialty districts, which is not hard to get within the first 50 turns or so of the game. So that's, I guess, up to another +9, +12 extra gold per trade route. And you get some extra trade routes from your first Great Admiral. Yeah, that's actually a decent gold bonus, and that might help you get to that workshop of the world bonus a little bit quicker as well to get that +4 for yields. Yeah, probably right around average. Bordering on B tier. I'll say C tier for now. Moving on to Barbarossa, a new civ and leader for the tier list. Although I think he, not to the game, I think he may have been an original release. From the bottom, we have the Hansa, the unique industrial zone replacement, which I quite like. It doesn't come online sooner, like you don't unlock it sooner compared to the Ambiorix unique industrial zone, but you can get a lot of very high production bonuses. Granted, it's through some of the more traditional means of building up the dams, canals, aqueducts, all that stuff. Or one of those, I think, is canal. I think canal and commercial hub might be unique to this building. I can't quite remember. Either way, this is a strong district. You can get a lot of production from them, and production is, of course, very valuable in this game. These other bonuses are a little less powerful. The U-boat is, since it's a modern unit, you're rarely ever going to see it, so I'll skip over that. The extra district can definitely come in handy. I think most of the time I find that I don't always have time to build all the districts in all of my cities, so this might not be relevant too often. If you really want another district in a city, I don't know. I guess he has the extra production to support it, so it can help. Better, I think, is this leader bonus with the extra military policy slot, so you can get reduced unit maintenance and increased production towards stuff a lot of the time. It's probably one of the weaker free cards to get, but a free policy card is a free policy card. It's definitely a plus, and the extra combat strength against city-states should save you a few turns conquering every game, because I do think you'll want to conquer at least 1 or 2 city-states. So definitely above average. I think what stops him from getting into A or S tier is that the Hansa is not available to you until you unlock the industrial zone normally, and that's quite a ways into the game. So I think that puts him above average, but just not one of the best civs in the game. Ghandi is up next. Like with Chandragupta, his civ bonuses are decent. They're not bad. This unique improvement gives extra housing, food, faith, which is, of course, strong. I guess I won't repeat myself too much on these parts. These bonuses are good. His leader bonus, though, is definitely less strong. It's a small faith bonus in the early game. Well, really not even that early, because you need to meet civs with a religion, and you have to not be at war with them. The double war weariness thing is gimmicky. In a prolonged fight against a human player, this might become relevant. But it doesn't really offer any real power in making the civ better. So he's probably worse than Chandragupta, at least by a tier. I think he probably still at least cracks C tier, since he still has very decent faith and an okay military bonus with the unique unit. Yeah, yeah, C tier feels right. Okay, I was really looking forward to talking about Genghis Khan because I've seen him rated very highly in the past by other players in this game, but I think I really disagree. I think he's average at best. So let me explain. I guess, like usual, I'll go from the bottom of the Civ bonuses. The unique building is it can give you extra movement to your heavy and light cav, but of course you need to build the encampment, which there's not always time to do. So some of your units will get higher combat speed. The Keshig is cool, just because you can do some interesting things with this escort ability, but I don't think it's really that powerful of a unit otherwise. Really, the main thing is here, this extra diplomatic visibility combat strength bonus. So, in theory, you can get up to plus 24 combat strength with this guy and this ability, but in practice, that's never going to happen. Getting diplomatic visibility is really difficult to do. Your opponent is probably also trying to get diplomatic visibility on you, especially if they understand the Mongolia bonus. I think, generally speaking, you're only going to have one, maybe two diplomatic visibility points over your opponent. So that means you're going to be getting a plus 6 or plus 12 combat bonus on top of his plus 3 for his cavalry class units. That's still a lot, but I don't know. For your first conquest, it's only really going to be plus 9 probably, or sorry, plus 6 from the diplomatic visibility bonus and the plus 3 on your cavalry class, which is a significant bonus. Don't get me wrong, but it's all he has. Other conquering leaders that I rank highly have either a bigger combat bonus or other bonuses on top of the fighting bonus that really takes the Civ to the next level. I think he's either B or C tier, mostly because of how awkward his ability is to use. I think I have to put him in C tier. I think you can make a strong argument for B tier since it's a big combat bonus. But I'm happy with that ranking. Moving on to Gilgamesh. Where is he in the list here? Gilgamesh. This is another cool one. He has this ziggurat improvement, which extra science and culture in the early game is definitely useful, but as the game progresses, you're going to want to swap out those improvements for stuff that gives you food and production, since that's what you're going to need for your cities to grow. So even though in the early game this can give you a big boost, I think this falls off fairly quickly, especially as your other tile improvements get improved by your tech. The war cart is fine. It's an okay combat boost. It's early, which is nice. Oh yeah, it even says in the description it's stronger than all other starting units. I suppose that's true. But he doesn't have much else to back it up. So you have this bonus towards capturing barbarian outposts and the city-state levy. The city-state levy, I don't pay too much mind to. I always find it difficult to get much value out of that. But this barbarian outpost reward thing is weird, because if you're playing with barbarians, I feel like if things are going well, you're not going to be dealing with many barbarians. Just you'll luck out and your neighbors are taking care of them. So I feel like you'll get the most value out of this bonus if you're unlucky and have to fight a lot of barbarians. But then that also means the rest of your empire will have been suffering, since you're having to spend all those extra resources. Yeah, I think this just doesn't give much value. I guess at best you're getting a couple extra builders, maybe a couple Eurekas over the course of the game, which compared to other Civ bonuses is very small. I guess More interesting is this thing about getting extra combat strength from alliances, and this makes Gilgamesh a great ally for sure. But as for his own power, this is difficult to make useful. If I were making a tier list about cool duos that you could have in a team game, Gilgamesh would be a lot stronger. But since, due to the nature of the way I'm making this tier list, I think he's overall pretty weak. Maybe as bad as Abraham Lincoln, so I'll put him in the E tier. Next up is Indonesia. So they have a unique tile improvement for water, and it's a decent tile improvement. I don't mind too much. You can grow coastal cities to be a bit bigger. Like with India, they because it's something with extra housing and food that can help you grow cities, and that is a bonus to everything. But it actually takes a while. If memory serves, it takes a while before you can build this thing. And since you can only build it on water, only a few, unless you're playing on an island map, only a few of your cities are going to be able to build these at all. Especially since I think, yes, you need to place it adjacent to a sea resource. So even if you have a coastal city, you might not even be able to build any of these. The unique unit is uninteresting. And this part with adjacencies, I think would be potential. If this were a standard adjacency bonus, the Civ would be so much stronger. But since it's a minor adjacency bonus, it's hardly worth considering. And the amenity bonus is also very small. It feels like these bonuses are just half as strong as they should be. I guess the leader bonus is kind of cool. The naval units are pretty cheap to purchase with faith. But it's another situation where, since it's restricted to the ocean, it's difficult to get a whole lot of value on this unless you're playing on a map, which has good terrain for it, an island's map or something. Like with this ability alone, it's easy enough to build up a huge navy and dominate the oceans, but the game mostly takes place on land. So this is really not a huge boost, and there's no big combat strength bonus or anything to go along with it. So among combat bonuses, it's really not great. And again, +2 faith to city centers on coast or lake it's just not great. If it were +4 faith, it would probably still just be okay. I mean, you can get an early Pantheon and have your pick, but there's no Pantheon that super synergizes with any part of this leader. So overall, maybe average or below average. Probably D tier. Next, we have Gorgo, starting with the unique theater square replacement. Unique districts are always good. Theater square is an okay one to have. You'll definitely want to build a few, especially if you're going for a tourism victory. Although this Civ just does not have much to go along with getting tourism for a good culture victory. Overall, though, I think it's nice to have for sure. The Hoplite is a great early game unit, so that is a nice early game boost. Along with the wildcard policy slot, also throughout the game, this is always going to be valuable. I mean, none of these bonuses are super standout. These are all nice to have. And I guess that one in particular does synergize with Gorgo's built-in bonus of extra combat strength military policies. But it is only 1 combat strength. Let's see, for Oligarchy you could get early, you could have, I guess, 4 military policies in, so +4 combat strength, which is not great. And the combat victories for culture being half combat strength is also pretty negligible for a culture bonus. even if these culture bonuses were bigger, I don't think this leader would be that good. There's no, like, lots of culture on its own is really just okay. It doesn't unlock you new military units or anything that can really accelerate your growth. I mean, some of the cards are good, but overall, really just okay. Probably, not B tier, probably C tier. Moving on to Hammurabi, very powerful civilization. From the bottom, we have this Palgum, this unique watermill replacement, and already this is a very good bonus. +1 food to freshwater tiles can give you, it's a huge bonus to food in pretty much all of your cities. I have a really easy time building up large cities with this building. Can't be overlooked for sure. And I guess it gives one more production housing from a normal watermill, which is definitely good. The unique unit is unfortunately not very strong. I guess maybe you could do a little bit of scouting with it, but I don't know. Not too good. The main thing here, though, is this civilization ability. This Eureka is giving all the science for technologies. I mean, sure, it's half science per turn, but from all of the science from Eureka's, you're going to be very far ahead in tech for most of the game, as long as you're staying on top of that. It's a weird way to play. You know, you have to alter how you would play compared to other civs for sure. It's very unique. But yeah, no other civ can accelerate their way through the tech tree like this guy. And that means you can get to high-tech units very quickly and just overwhelm your opponent with just great combat units. And later on, if you stay on top of spying, there's no way that any player can get ahead of you on tech. You just steal any techs that they might have that you don't. In the meanwhile, since you don't have to spend as much time worrying about tech and building campuses compared to any other civ in the game, you can spend way more production on all of the other districts. So he can still kind of do whatever he wants. I mean, sure, he doesn't have any big bonuses towards any victory type, really, especially with the science penalty, just because he has to spend so much less time on science than everyone else. He's actually just way better at everything. And even on top of this, he has this great early game bonus with getting free buildings and envoys. Just each of these, it feels like each one of these bonuses, with the exception of the unique unit, are just great. Like, great civ. There's no way I can rank him anywhere lower than S tier. Boom, right up there with Ambiorix. Next is the old version of Harald. Although he's not the exact same. I think they... Oh, that's right. It wasn't that they nerfed Harald himself. It's that there was a nerf on the card, which gave better yields from pillaging, which was sort of an indirect nerf to Harald, since his main bonus has to do with pillaging. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I suppose I should start from the bottom like the other civs. This Stave Church gives you extra production to coastal resources and a little bit better adjacency. Overall, a mediocre faith bonus. And I don't know, I guess you can make it to be an okay work ethic civilization, but I'll talk more about that on a civ that can use that bonus to its full extent. These unique units are fine. There are definitely games where you can build long ships very early and get some early extra cities from these long ships very easily, since they're cheap to make. And of course, naval units are not only are they easy to make anyway because there's the card for double production, but Harald does actually have a production bonus naturally towards them, so you can get a few of these out very early. And of course, you can get into ocean tiles earlier than just about anyone else in the game. I shouldn't understate the power of being able to enter ocean tiles. That means you can spread yourself across the entire map very quickly. I mean, sure, this guy doesn't have a lot of combat bonuses to help him conquer the world quickly, but because he can just get where he needs to be sooner, that's enough a lot of the times. You don't need to do a massive conquering spree everywhere or settling everywhere. Just like a few cities dotted around the map that will eventually pay off. And maybe the most interesting part of his bonus is this thing about pillaging giving you extra yields. These yields are actually quite high. The science ones in particular can be actually a very big science bonus. The only problem with it is that it's possible that you run into a hard time just finding mines on the map to get that big science boost. So this is potentially an amazing bonus, potentially a very underwhelming bonus. Before the nerf to the raiding card, I probably would have rated this civ a little bit higher. But because raiding isn't as strong as it once was, or pillaging, excuse me, maybe he's only average. Yeah, let's put him in C tier. He's around average. Okay, this version of Harald, on the other hand, is definitely below average. He loses the most interesting and good part of the normal Harald's kit with the new leader bonus. And in replacement, he gets this bonus towards levying units, which I just really don't like levying bonuses. It's a big discount, sure, but there's going to be a lot of games where it's actually just impossible to get any value from this. And the rest of these Norway bonuses are good, not great. But I think without having the solid leader bonus, I think that just drops him just a little bit below average, which would make him a D tier civ. Next, we have Hojo, the old Japan, the one before the new Tokugawa leader. This civ is strong for sure. This unique electronics factory is on its own a pretty good culture boost. Not to be overlooked, but not huge. The samurai can be okay as well. I think it's possible to, if you focus on your culture, it's possible to get the samurai a little bit earlier than it is the man-at-arms. You can do sort of a decent timing attack with the samurai, and that can be all right. The main power here, though, is this civilization power, though. And this will be the case with the other Japan as well, where all districts receive an additional standard adjacency bonus for being adjacent to another district. Now, what this means is that Japan can build some of the highest adjacency bonuses for all districts compared to any other civ in the game. And it's not just one type of district, it's all of their districts, because of this bonus can be as strong or stronger than any other civ in the game. This applying to campuses alone would be a powerful bonus, but it's everything. It's amazing. The Hojo bonus itself on the leader is less incredible, although it doesn't need to be. I mean, he could have no bonus, and this would still be a very strong civ because of that adjacency thing. But you can build the combat bonus is very situational, along with that hurricane, the hurricane bonus. Really, the big part here is this building encampments, holy sites, and theater squares in half the time. Unfortunately, those districts aren't the best ones to get that bonus. Like, these aren't districts that you're going to want to put in every city, with the exception of the holy site. Since it's Japan and you can get some powerful or very high numbers on your holy site adjacencies, you can slot in work ethic on your religion, and you can get a lot of production that way. So that can be decent. But the encampment and theater squares, you're going to notice a little bit less. I mean, I guess because it's 3 districts, this can compound and make it overall quite a strong bonus. But like I said, it doesn't need to be. The rest, this standard adjacency thing is just a great bonus. He's S tier almost entirely because of that. Next up is Poland. So they get this unique market replacement, which essentially just gives you +2 production on international trade routes. The domestic bonus is less important since you won't want to do too many domestic trade routes, maybe just enough to get roads set up in your empire. And among trade bonuses, 2 production is not a lot. I mean, there are civs which can get dozens of extra gold from their trade routes. So 2 production is really not that good. Their unique unit is in the Renaissance era, which makes it a little less strong than a lot of other unique units. This culture bomb thing, applying to encampments and forts, is very awkward. It's not enough to justify building lots of encampments or forts. Those are things that you only want to build on occasion. But it's a culture bomb. Yeah, the culture bomb doesn't really make it worth it, and that's not a super powerful effect either. Same with this military policy card being converted into wild cards. A lot of the times you need a military policy card, so having one converted into a wild card doesn't really do anything. A lot of times you'll just use that for a military card anyway. You get this bonus towards conversion with culture bombs, but it's just awkward to use. It's not a great faith bonus. This thing with relics giving extra yields is also very awkward to use since relics are so hard to obtain. And this holy site adjacency from adjacent districts is, I mean, that's like, what? How many districts does Japan's bonus apply to? I mean, it's all of them, but there's anyway. This is like a 5th as strong as the Japan bonus, if that. It's not good. This is not a strong civ. So probably D or E tier. I'm thinking, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I need to shuffle some of these leaders down into F tier to make this list a little more even. But that's a good place for Poland. Okay, next up we got Portugal, who I think they are the first civ on this list, which is actually a very decent trade civ. But from the bottom here, we actually have a building which is not geared towards that. It's a university replacement, this navigation school. Plus 25% production towards naval units in the city is just okay, but +1 science for every 2 coast or lake tiles is incredible. So I think a university by default is 4 science. And it's not hard to get a lot of coast tiles combined with lake tiles in a city. So a coastal city, let's say you get, once it's fully grown, or even starting out, it's not hard to get even, let's say 6, maybe 8 coastal tiles. So that's right there, 3 or 4 extra science that you're making from that building. And that's really good. That's a little bit like having a couple of extra adjacency points on your campus. And I think the upper limit to what this can do for a university is actually very high. Of course, your city's inland won't benefit from this, but the civ does have other bonuses on top of it, which I think make it a overall fairly strong civ. So you get this unique unit that can build these unique improvements that make your trade routes really good. And they do make your trade routes really good. I do mean it when I say it. Plus, what is it? +4 gold and 1 production, and you can have multiple of them in a city. So that's potentially incredible. However, I have a really hard time finding cities where I can build this. I've had games with Portugal where I've only found one place to build it, or maybe two places. But then I don't have any city close enough to actually make use of it. So this has potential, but it's not actually as strong as it looks on first glance. Most of their trading power actually comes from their leader bonus and this civ bonus here. So you get an extra trade route for every civ that's met, which of course the larger your map is with the more players, the better this bonus gets. I usually play on a large map, so that's 7 more trade routes that you can potentially get for free without doing anything, and that alone is a solid trade bonus, but it's combined with this thing where you can trade longer over the ocean and you get an extra bonus, that 50% towards all yields. Not only does trading over the ocean give better yields anyway, it gives a multiplier just naturally, but then you also get that 50%. Suddenly you're getting trade routes, which give truly incredible amounts of gold. And there are a lot of commercial city-states that can make this even better. Hunza in particular. If there's Hunza in the game and you're playing Portugal, it's basically game over. The civ can be unstoppable. But on average, you can still make a lot of gold with this civ, and gold makes Portugal very versatile, or any civ very versatile. If you have lots of gold, you can do a lot of things, and you have a decent science bonus. Just a good civ, very good civ, even A tier, easy. Next up, we have John Curtin here for Australia. He has this Outback Station improvement, which can give some decent yields to desert and desert hills, as well as other areas, but desert and desert hills is the most interesting, since normally you can't improve there. A little drawback here, which makes this improvement a little bit worse than like the pyramids for Nubia, is that you don't get it until a little bit later on. I forget exactly which civic it is, but I know it's towards the middle of the game where you start to see this, which takes a little bit of power, but that's okay. The rest of his bonuses sort of make up for that. Not this unique unit, because it's too late into the game for it to be that amazing, but this bonus here about getting extra adjacency from appeal is very strong. It only applies to a few districts, but among them is the campus. And anything that makes your campus adjacencies better makes a civ just so much stronger. Sure, it's only +3, but you have to consider that +3 can get doubled to an extra +6 with that campus card, and any science bonus is important to have. He gets 3 extra housing on coastal cities, which is a boon for sure. He has this leader bonus, which is 100% production if you've been declared war on, or if you've liberated a city in the past 10 turns. I don't think I've been able to get crazy value out of that production bonus. It makes them difficult to fight for sure. You might be able to get away with slightly greedier building orders than other civs, since you don't have to worry about defending as much. If you get declared war on, you can build up an army very quick. But most of his power does come from this thing, this extra adjacencies. It's straightforward, but +3 appeal is a lot. So, +3 adjacency from appeal is a lot. So from that alone, he's an easy A tier. Now it's Julius Caesar. I'm upset by this one. Julius Caesar should be a very cool leader, but he's actually very weak and kind of boring to play. So Rome already isn't a very exciting civ. You get the Bath, which is just a slightly better aqueduct. And aqueduct's a fine district. You build quite a few of them, but the bonus you get from it is not big. You get an extra 2 housing and 1 amenity from the Bath compared to a normal aqueduct. So it's on its own, it's not a strong bonus. The Legion is nice, but you can do some interesting things with the Legion because it has a build charge. You can get a Legion and then use their build charge to chop and get more legions, and you get a pretty large army that way, which can be decently strong. This thing about free roads building between your cities is also a nice little quality of life thing. You can move your army around and your workers around just a little bit faster than an average civ. And this leader bonus, though, is where it sort of falls apart. He gets 200 gold when he conquers a city for the first time, or 100 from an extra 100 from barbarian outposts, increasing to 500 later on in the game. This bonus just isn't, it's just not as good as the other realm. So the other realm, you get a free monument with all of your cities, and that sort of has a gold value on its own. One, it's instant. It's the cities that you build, and you can get it straight away, and that monument instantly starts earning for you. Compared to this guy, where you only get 200 gold after you conquer a city. And 200 gold really isn't even that much. Like, you could buy a monument for that and not much else. I think a granary is 180. Early on in the game, I guess you could get like another warrior or something. But to conquer that city in the first place, you already need a decent army. So it's helping you get something that you already have a lot of the time, I think. It's just not a very strong bonus. I think, unfortunately, this is a weaker version of the other Rome. And Rome already, I think, is not an especially strong civ. This is a D tier leader. Kristina next for Sweden. She gets a Renaissance unique unit, which is too late in the game for me to think is too good. This unique, what do you call it? I guess it's not a replacement. It's an extra building that you have the option of building in your government plaza after your second government type. On first reading, it doesn't sound too good. 2 slots for writing, music, and art. Is it only 2 slots? I thought it was more. Oh, I think it's 2 writing, music, and art. So I think it's 6 slots total, which doesn't sound that good, but you combine this with Sweden's bonus of automatically theming buildings that have more than 2. Is it more than 2? Yeah, at least 3 great work slots are automatically themed. So this one themes, like, once you fill it out, it themes everything inside it, which is actually a very strong culture and tourism boost. And I guess since I've already mentioned it, that theming bonus, where everything with 3 slots that's filled gets automatically themed, is, I think, one of the best tourism and culture bonuses in the game. It's not hard to, it doesn't take long for that to come online. And even on the way to that, you can get this open air museum, which is a great improvement. It's +2 culture and tourism for each type of terrain that you have founded a city on. So up to 10 culture and tourism. And you can only have one of these per city, but that's still a lot of tourism and culture that you can get, especially since it's just off 1 improvement. That's like half a national park, just on a tile improvement. And a nice little loyalty bonus. This is nice. The civ ability here is less strong. You can get, a little bit of extra great engineer and great scientist points doesn't hurt. But the 50 diplomatic favor from earning great people, I think, is not strong. I think diplomacy, the World Congress, usually isn't too impactful. A game, I think, should be over before this becomes a problem or an asset. And the extra competitions are fun. The thing that you start seeing in the World Congress in the Industrial Era, they're fun, but I think not very impactful. Really, it comes down to the Civ just having a very strong culture and tourism boost. I think it's the strongest one in the game. Unfortunately, culture, I think, is just a little bit weaker than, say, scientific and domination victories, since there's there's more counterplay. You can just wipe out civs from the match to reduce the amount of tourism that can be generated, or make lots of culture in your civ, and that makes this a little weaker. But she's still definitely a strong civ, probably B or A. I'm going to say A tier for now. Now the two versions of Kublai Khan. First, the one for China. So China, you can get this Great Wall improvement, which is a subpar tourism improvement, I'd say. It gives you gold, culture, and tourism. None of these in high amounts. My main issue with it is that to really make this work, you need to build lots of Great Wall segments, since they improve by having other Great Wall segments next to each other. So you have this tile improvement, which doesn't give food or production, that take up lots of tiles. It's a difficult situation. Like, you want to build lots of these so you can get the full value, but building lots of them is bad because it takes away food and production that you need. So I don't like this improvement very much. And the culture and tourism that it gives isn't even that high. This unique unit having a range of 1 is really bad. So I do not like this unique unit. This point about getting free Eurekas, or not free Eurekas, a boost to Eurekas and Inspirations, is a minor boost to your overall science and culture output, but nothing that big. And I guess you do get free Eurekas and Inspirations from building wonders. But this version of China doesn't actually have any boost towards building wonders aside from the boost that you get from building them. So I think this actually doesn't matter too much for Kublai Khan. Instead, he gets an extra economic policy slot and a random inspiration in Eureka from establishing a trading post in a civ for the first time. So you're limited in how often you can use this by how many civs are in the match. Yeah, I don't even think that's worth considering. This these Eureka and inspiration boosts are very minor. And you do get an extra economic policy slot, which is good. Economic policies are usually the most powerful. If you have a wild card, you often make that an economic policy slot. Overall, though, these are just weak bonuses. I think just a little bit below average. I think he's a D tier. The other version of Kublai Khan, I think, is a little bit more coherent, since he has some natural bonuses for trade posts built into the Mongolia bonus. Unfortunately, the Mongolia bonuses aren't very strong. When I was talking about Genghis Khan, I talked about my problems with this diplomatic visibility bonus. I think between the two, between this leader from Mongolia and Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan's like just a little bit stronger. I like having that economic policy slot in exchange for that 3 extra combat strength, or having 3 fewer combat strength compared to Genghis Khan on the cavalry class. Unfortunately, though, I think it's still just not a strong enough bonus that you get to make him any better than Genghis Khan. So I think he's a tier above the other Kublai Khan just because he has a combat bonus and this trading post bonus that works nicely with his leader ability. But he still can't be any better than average, so C tier. Have Kupe next, I think. Yes. So Kupe, I'm realizing there's a lot going on here. Okay, so he has this unique unit here, which is a swordsman replacement that doesn't require iron, which is definitely nice. It has this unique improvement, which isn't too strong, but it's an okay unique unit. You get it early, which is always good. But the main bonuses, you get this amphitheater replacement. The I do not know how you pronounce it, but you get this unique building, and it's very strong. +1 culture and faith to all the city tiles with a passable feature and natural wonder, and that adds up really fast. Maybe you have let's say half a dozen features that this could impact in any given city, maybe more. I think on average it's something like that, something like 6. So you get 6 extra culture and faith. I think an amphitheater is usually just 2. Now, of course, you're giving up great writer points. This thing does not generate great writers, but I think that culture boost is still worth it. And if you grow your city, I think you can actually make that culture boost go quite high. And of course, faith. And faith is a nice little bonus here. It's a versatile resource. The main power here comes from the civ ability, as many civs are. Unimproved woods and rainforests give you extra production, rising to 2 production at conservation, which is actually pretty quick to get since you have a decent culture boost. And while this isn't a huge production boost on the surface level, what I like about it is that since it's unimproved woods and rainforests, you can actually spend less time making builders, since a lot of your tiles are just naturally good from getting this production bonus. And you also have a fishing boat bonus on top of that to make your cities just a little bit better. That's something that you can spend your workers on. I'm a big fan of early production bonuses, and this is a great one. It applies to a lot of tiles in a city. They add up very quick, I think. You also get this boost to where you can enter ocean tiles from the start of the game. And this is another civ, so that means that this is another civ that you can conquer a lot of different places on the map from a very early point in the game, especially with this embarked unit movement boost. That definitely gives this civ a big boost. Being able to take more of the map is huge. It makes you better in every category. So while he's missing some direct bonuses to like science or military to, I think, make him super strong, these other bonuses combined at least make him better than average. B tier. Next, we got Lady Six Guy. So this is an interesting one because her power depends a lot on the map settings and how lucky you are with getting a good start. So her ability is that capital cities within 6 tiles, or non-capital cities within 6 tiles, get a bonus to all yields, and then cities outside that range get a penalty. So if that starting 6 tile range is good, then you can get a very strong civ with that yield boost. But this is sort of weird because this bonus becomes less good the bigger the map is. So on really small maps like a duel or tiny, that 6 tiles is going to be all of your empire, or at least most of it. But as the maps get bigger, the cap on this bonus becomes a bigger problem, because on bigger maps, other civs are going to build larger and larger, whereas your best cities are restricted to the 6 tile range. So that can be very limiting. You get this nice campus replacement, the observatory, which again can be very strong if you start next to good land. You can get very, very large campuses. Same with this thing about getting extra housing, production, and gold from farms. It's so dependent on the start. I think there's a lot of potential for this to be a strong civ, but it's a real roll of the dice. I think most of the time, since you get that 10% yield bonus, you're going to have a strong start, and that's going to pay off through the rest of the game. I think this is a B tier civ. If the bonus wasn't towards science and early production, this would not be the case. But a science bonus, production bonuses coming online early is always going to be good. So at least B tier, with a big asterisk that this is a leader with a lot of variability depending on your start. Next up is Lautaro. His unique tile improvement, I think, is very weak. Getting appeal only equal to 75% of a tile's appeal is, even if it was 100%, this would still just not be that strong. You would need more bonuses for getting high appeal than this leader has to make an ability like this be worth doing, since tile improvements that don't give food and production always need to give lots of yield for it to be worth it, just because you need so much food and production for a save to be good. The unique unit isn't that strong. This bonus towards culture and production and experience for units with cities, with governors, is a fine bonus. It's a production boost, but it only applies to cities that, where the best part of the bonus only applies to cities that you conquer. It's a loyalty bonus as well, but none of this is that good for making them especially good for building large cities or conquering better. Extra loyalty is sort of a quality of life thing, but unless it's a huge loyalty bonus and you have some way of getting into faraway cities sooner, then you're not going to be able to make this loyalty boost really work. It'd be a different story if he could get onto ocean early or something, and then settle in weird places and make this loyalty bonus work. But he doesn't. And the last part is this 10 combat strength against civs and golden heroic ages and free cities, and this gimmicky thing with loyalty. It's sometimes really good if the civs you're fighting are golden age, but there's no way of guaranteeing whether that's going to be the case. Either this bonus is going to be amazing, since plus 10 combat strength is loads, or it's going to be awful, and because it doesn't do anything when the civs you're fighting are just in normal ages or dark ages. I think even if it was, like, say it was all of your opponents were in a golden age at all times, this leader would probably be B or A. But I think since it's only some of the time, on average, it's more likely to work around B or C, since you're going to have that combat strength bonus sometimes. I'm going to say C for now. I usually like to rank civs at least partly on how consistent they are. I mean, unlike the Mayans, I think there's nothing that makes this strong out of the gate. It's only, you might get a strong start, you might get a weak start. Yeah, I would give this a C tier for sure. Okay, next is Ludwig. He is another German leader, so he gets those German bonuses, which, like the case of Barbarossa, these are good bonuses. But I think he actually has just a slightly better. Well, no, appropriately, I think his leader bonus is actually just a decent side grade to the other German leader. +2 culture for adjacent districts next to one, or districts adjacent to wonders, can actually be very high. I've heard tales about this, since it also gives tourism. I've heard tales that you can get a very early culture victory with this if the stars align. I haven't seen that. I think most of the time you just think of this as a nice culture boost throughout the game. Since it doesn't even have to be the wonder doesn't even have to be finished. You can actually get this culture boost quite early, and it could be pretty large as well. I mean, it's not an incredible bonus, but the German bonuses are good on their own as well. They're just not early enough, and yeah, that's the main problem. I think they just don't come online early enough for it to be amazing. But they're still, in the late game, you still have very high production. I think this is at least as good as Barbarossa, so B tier. Now, Mansa Musa used to be my favorite leader in the game, but my opinion has since changed. So his whole deal is that he can make more gold than probably anyone else sometimes. So it's all about having this big discount on units from the Seguba, along with some nice extra adjacencies, including a thing with a holy site. But there's this big penalty, production penalty, towards constructing buildings and units. And yeah, that's more or less the summary. You can have trade routes, because of his leader bonus, you can have trade routes that give more gold than anyone else in the game. And you also have a decent trade route capacity bonus, not as good as the Portugal one, which is the one where you can get one per leader met. This is just one per golden age, so it's not as immediate as the other one, but it's still nice. Plus 1 gold for every flat desert tile, so it's not unusual to have maybe like a dozen flat desert tiles in one of your cities in an empire due to his start bias for deserts. So at the end of the game, you're probably making thousands of gold, and everything's a lot cheaper because of the Seguba. And if you have democracy as well, you can buy stuff for so little that he becomes unstoppable. But just the problem is it takes so long to get to that point. Not only do you need to build the Segubas everywhere and get your desert city with all the tiles, you also need to build lots of holy sites to make the Seguba better. All the while, you're struggling with this lower production, including the production penalty on mines. I mean, sure, they give extra gold, but that production penalty really hurts. It just takes too long for this leader to be truly great. He's definitely one of the strongest in the late game, since you basically have like an infinite army, and every new city you build, you can just buy all the stuff you need to make it a big city right out of the gate. But since it takes so long, I think he's probably only a C tier. Having a weak early game is killer. The early game is the most important. He has an awful early game. I think he goes in the middle just because eventually Mansa Musa can redeem himself with such a strong late game. But it pains me. I think he's only C tier. Next up, we've got Hungary. Interesting one, since they're a levying city-based civ, which is a feature that I often don't use, but this guy actually has enough bonuses to make them worth using, I think. So his unique units are fine. I don't like them too much because they don't come aligned early. But when you do get them, they can be strong. The thermal bath is a decent building improvement. Replaces the zoo, I think, and it gives some nice bonuses compared to the usual zoo. Extra production is always welcome, but again, it comes on later in the game. You need natural history to get it, so it's not especially relevant. But this other production bonus here about building things across a river from a city center, this one is a little easier to make happen, and 50% is a lot. I think you can probably get this to happen in most of your cities, in at least some, if not all, of your districts in that city. So that is not insignificant. And this last thing here about having all these bonuses towards city-state levying, I think might push him into the territory of being an above-average civ. So at least be your A tier. So normally one of the weaknesses of levying a city-state is that it's hard to know whether your units are going to be in the right position. And you also have a hard time guaranteeing that someone won't just come in and become suzerain while they're levied. So this gets rid of a lot of that risk. You can move your units into position faster. They have that combat strength bonus. They're cheap to recruit, and you get the envoys. This guy's really interesting, and you can actually save a lot of production on building an army by doing this. Yeah, I think this is actually probably a B or A tier civ for sure. Exactly where? Let me see. What else do I have so far? Yeah, his combat bonus is at least as good as some of these other guys. Maybe it's very borderline. If I was ordering these tiers, he'd be low A, high B. There is. I'll put A for now. The only thing in my mind which is sort of bothering me is that you can be very unlucky with the city-state placement, where the city-state might not be anywhere near where you want to wage war. In that case, you still might be able to make it with extra movement. But I think this is fair. Like even just getting the extra envoys and that big production boost, I think, is still very solid. So yeah, I'll leave them there. A tier. Moving on to Ethiopia, they have another really cool bonus where your faith is converted into a little bit of science and culture. Not a huge amount, but it does add up pretty quickly just from the raw amount of faith that these guys output. So this rock-hewn church ability, you can actually... This improvement I really like. Normally, I don't like things that don't give other yields. Or, no, not other yields. And normally, I don't like things that don't give food and production. This might be one of the exceptions, though, since this gives just so much faith. Like, you might get 10 faith from that tile, and then 10 faith is also, 1.5 science and culture. Oh, and it's tourism from faith as well. I didn't even realize. That's actually quite a lot of tourism as well. And you can have multiple of these in a city. Yeah, this is a really good improvement. And faith is also very versatile as well. Later on in the game, you can use that to buy units. Early on, when you get to Golden Age, having lots of faith is great for outputting a lot of free builders and settlers from the monumentality bonus. And I mean, the rest of these is just more faith bonuses, more ways of generating more faith with those improved trade routes. The combat bonus on hills is rarely that good. I mean, 4 just isn't a huge bonus, but it's nice. Really, it's just about making just loads of faith. And I think I do wish that the science and culture bonus was just a little bit higher. It's never, even though you're making loads of faith from these abilities, it never actually translates into loads of science and culture. It's just like a tiny boost. It feels like it's similar to having, cross-cultural dialogue, or the I forget the name of it, but the culture-based religious belief that gives you a culture for pop. It's a bit like that. It's just a fine science and culture boost. But I think having that versatility from having just loads of faith is good enough to make this guy pretty reasonable. And that tourism boost, I think, does make him definitely better than your average leader for getting a culture victory. So I think he's at least B tier. I think what'll stop me from putting him in A tier is just that science and culture boost isn't as large as some of the other civs. I don't think it's as good as having an adjacency bonus towards either of these districts. And his other bonuses just aren't that big either. Like that hill bonus as well. If that were a little bit stronger, or if it were just like a flat +4 combat strength to all of his units, I think he'd be A. But since they're only kind of situational, I don't think I'll put him higher. Well, situational and not very strong. If either this applied to more units, or it was a bigger bonus, I think it'd be a tier higher. Next up, we got Montezuma for the Aztecs, and I kind of forgot just how simple this leader was, which I dig, but right off the bat, he's just not that good. These bonuses aren't strong. So unfortunately, it has one of the weaker unique buildings in the game. It's an arena replacement. So that's the building in the entertainment complex, which is not something you want to build loads of, since a lot of the building bonuses only apply once per 6 tiles, I guess it is. And I think even for that, even if you did build lots of entertainment complexes, this extra thing, this building isn't that good. Like over the base arena, I think you're just getting the faith and the great general point. Is that right? Maybe it's more culture as well. Anyway, the point being that these bonuses are bad. They're small, and you're not going to have many of these. The Eagle Warrior is all right. Warrior replacements are a little weird since you don't have warriors for long, and you probably want to build archers or horsemen instead of more warriors most of the time. But an early boost is fine. This builder charge things for completing districts, though, I don't like. This 20% of district cost for builder charges, I think, is not enough. Like a lot of the times, I think you will have needed to have spent more production on that builder charge than whatever 20% of the district cost is. So I think a lot of times this is just bad. I mean, sure, sometimes you're getting free builders with your warriors, but that's only early on. Like as the game goes on, you're not going to have more builders than anyone else. So I think this ability is going to do nothing a lot of the time. He does get this bonus towards combat strength for luxury resources and a tiny amenity boost as well. The amenities from luxury resources going to 2 extra cities. But I think you need, by the time this combat bonus becomes strong, like by the time you have a big enough empire for this combat strength bonus to be big, I think to get to that point, you would have already have needed to have won the game, basically. Like in your base empire, I don't know, let's be generous and say you can get 6 luxury resources. You get that 6 extra combat strength, which is not bad, but it's only when you're attacking. So on defense, you're still going to be just as easy to kill. Yeah, normally I like combat bonuses, but it's weird since it's only one-sided. I think he's actually below average. Really, like you could get rid of these civ bonuses and his power wouldn't change much. Really, this leader ability is the main thing, but it's not even a good leader ability. So yeah, he has to be a D tier, unfortunately. Moving on to the Congo, and Vemba, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He gets this unique district. His unique district is actually very nice. It's a neighborhood replacement that you get early. Gives a bunch of housing, food, gold. You'll want to build a lot of these, and you can get fairly large cities this way. I definitely like this. It's a decent, unique district to be sure, and they have a swordsman replacement, which I also like. Swordsman replacement, I think, is one of the better units to replace since you can get them early, and a lot of the swordsman replacements, including this one, are quite strong. So I like both of these. Neither of these bonuses is crazy strong, but then you get this thing about having all these extra food, production, gold, faith from relics, artifacts, and sculptures. Which to me, at least, when I first read that, I think, oh, that's so many extra yields compared to other civs. That's incredible, right? But the crushing thing about this is that these great work types are very hard to consistently get, or you can't get them until much later in the game, with the case of the artifacts. Like this is by the time this bonus starts to do anything, I think the game should already basically be over. I mean, I think the Congo can have one of the best starts in the game if you get a free relic or 2 from huts, which can happen. You have just a crazy amount of resources over other players. But 9 times out of 10, this bonus isn't going to do anything for most of the game, which is too bad because it sounds really cool. You do get extra great people points. I mean, and that it's 50% also sounds great, but these are 3 great people points that aren't that strong. Artists, musicians in particular is kind of weird, since it's hard to find places to put music slots. I mean, thankfully, he does get the 5 extra great work slots, but I think even then you're going to run out of places to put great musicians very quickly. And great merchants also, only some of the great merchants are even worth recruiting, so that part of the bonus also isn't going to do much most of the time. On top of that, he gets this big penalty, I think. It works out to being a penalty where he can't get holy sites and great prophets and religions. He does get beliefs of religions, but it's another case where I think most of the time it's just not going to do anything. You would need some player who happens to have a very good religion to also convert all of your cities. But I think if there's a player doing that, then you're probably going to lose the game, since they're doing well enough to convert you and they have a strong religion. And you're encouraged to sort of help them out by getting these apostles and then doing religious combat to get your relics. But if you're helping out that player too much, then whatever player you're converting religion for is going to win. So it's weird. He has potential, but I think just most of the time the potential for these bonuses to do great things is I think it's just not going to work out. I think he's D tier, since the penalties, I think, more times hurt him than improve him. That penalty for holy sites. Like, the only real bonus is the Mbanza, which is a good district, but I think it's not good enough to make up for the rest of his kit. Yeah, C tier at the highest, but D seems fair. Next is the new version of Persia that came out with the Leader Pass. So, like with Cyrus, these Civ bonuses, none of them are that good. So I'll just skip straight over to the leader bonus here. So he gets 5 combat strength and attacking full health units, and he gets slightly better domestic trade routes. What I don't like about this is that a lot of your attacks aren't going to be against full health units. Even with that +5 combat strength, you're not going to be one-shotting units a lot of the time. So you're still... This works out to being a 5 combat strength bonus on like a third of your attacks, where other civs with a combat bonus, like Ambiorix, are getting +12 combat strength at all times, including on defense. So like with Montezuma, having this thing when only attacking is very problematic. It makes this bonus a lot weaker. And this domestic trade route thing is, these are a nice couple of yields. More gold and faith are always welcome. But only being domestic trade routes makes it a lot weaker, since, it's 3 gold and a faith on top of the 2 gold and 1 culture that Persia already gets. But I think even then, that's not enough to make that better than international trade routes. International trade routes are probably still going to get more gold than that. And even if this does work out to be more gold than a international trade route, you're still only getting like a tiny bit more gold. And in addition to the 1 culture, 2 faith, and I guess the food and production that you get from domestic trade routes. I think that's not enough to justify building lots of commercial hubs. I think it's still better just to build more campuses and theater squares and industrial zones first. Unlike some other trade bonuses where you want to build lots of commercial hubs, I think this just isn't high enough to make that worth it. And it's not like he gets loads of extra trade routes either. So he's definitely weak. Probably, definitely worse than Cyrus, since he doesn't have as big of a combat bonus. Maybe he works out to being average. The domestic trade routes, they work out to be decent, I guess. Just not hugely good. Yeah, okay. C tier it is. Okay, now I get to talk about the other Congo leader, which I'm glad I got to do. Well, the first one is still fresh in my mind. So she gets to use, she loses the penalty on not being able to get religions, like the original Congo leader. So it makes it a little bit easier to get relics to make use of the Civ bonus, but not easy enough to make it super worth considering. Really, the main thing here is that you get this 10% yields on your continent, which is sort of like a better version of the Mayan bonus, especially with this minus 15% thing. It really draws comparison to the Mayan bonus. But a lot of times, one continent is going to be a little bit bigger than that 6-tile range that the Mayans get. I mean, keep in mind this leader doesn't have a science district replacement, but you do get this neighborhood, and unlike the other Congo leader, you can make use of it quite well from this 10% yields thing. So you're going to have, like, the cities in your initial starting zone are usually going to be your best cities, and the Mbanza is a way to make them even better. Combined with that plus 10 yields, I think makes us actually a pretty solid leader. So she goes into the B tier here. Okay, the Inca are next. They have a unique mountain pass replacement that you get early. It helps you navigate your empire a little bit better, but more interesting is the fact that it multiplies the gold of trade routes. Now, mountain passes do this as well, but you get these much earlier. And I think it actually maxes out the gold multiplier for a fairly decent gold bonus. I forget exactly how it works, but I know that these do offer a decent gold bonus on foreign trades. They get this unique unit that I don't like very much because despite it having a very strong attack, it's actually very easy to kill. So I don't like it too much. These next 3 parts, though, are all very strong. They get this unique improvement that does just about everything you'd want a unique improvement to do. Food, housing, and a bunch of production. And even more than it initially says so, because you get bonuses to mountains as well in the Inca territory. So, yes, a very strong tile improvement that scales well throughout the game. You get it early, gives the resources you want, it scales well. Really like this. They also get this bonus towards domestic trade routes to help grow your cities a little more, combined with that housing and food boost from the terrace farm. You can get some very large cities. And alone, if this was everything that the Civ had, they would probably just be a solid B tier Civ. But they actually have a very strong starting bias towards mountains. And that not only means that you can get a lot of strong terrace farms and mountain tiles to work, they get a lot of very good campuses almost every game because of that mountain start bias. So they have what's essentially a hidden science boost from that start bias. And that, I think, lets them break through from being only a solid B tier to actually a solid A tier Civ. It's they have a food, science, and production boost, sort of a holy trinity of what makes the Civ strong. Classic A tier. So got Pedro next, another very strong Civ. He gets replacements to both the entertainment complex and the water park. Neither of these replacements are incredibly good. You get the special project that you can get some extra great people points for, which can be all right. I think it's great artists, great engineers, and is it great merchants as well? Anyway, the bonus that it gives you can help you along with the culture victory a little bit. They have this unique unit that I'm not a huge fan of. You can get it at nationalism, which normally I don't like units that come online this late. But since you can get it at nationalism, it's possible to get this before most civs have access to battleships, and battleships are a strong unit to begin with. So this isn't bad. This thing about rainforest giving adjacencies, though, is actually amazing. you can have some of the best campus adjacencies of any leader in the game, right up there with what Japan is capable of. And it also applies to holy sites, which means Pedro can be potentially the best civ for going for work ethic. If he gets work ethic and he also gets the Pantheon for rainforest adjacency on his holy sites, the holy site production just becomes so great a bonus that this leader can be unstoppable. Now, he doesn't really have anything that lets him get that guaranteed. So it's really, I think, the campus thing is the main thing here. You shouldn't be allowed to do the holy site. If he gets the holy site, if he goes for the holy site work ethic build, he's unstoppable. But even without that, the campus boost is very good. The leader ability of that little refund on great people points is just okay. But this, if he just had this adjacency bonus thing, he would still be a very strong leader. He's either A or S tier for it. If you're able to get the work ethic consistently, he's definitely an S tier. But if the players you're going up against see that you're going Pedro, someone should try to stop you from doing that. Like they could pick, someone that has an easier time getting that work ethic first, like Theodora or Peter. It's tough to say. Like a high A or a low S tier. That's let's say S tier for now. I just know that he's bordering on S tier. He's missing some other. He just has the one strong bonus that makes him a little weaker than the other S tiers, but he has the potential to be one of the strongest civs from the holy site thing with work ethic. So I'll say around there for now. Maybe I'll come back to him. Next up is Pericles, the other Greek leader. So like with the other Greek leader, he has access to the Acropolis, and he's able to make use of this a little bit better than Gorgo, since he has a bonus to do with getting extra culture for each city-state he's a suzerain of, and he gets the extra envoys from the Acropolis. So just from those two bonuses combined, he can make more culture than maybe any other leader in the game. The issue with that is that culture on its own is not really a victory type. Culture helps you get tourism for a culture victory, but you still need to actually generate tourism, which he's not really any better at, aside from getting to those buildings just a little bit quicker than everyone else. And I don't mean to undersell the value of having lots of culture too much. I mean, he's getting, you could maybe be up to 30, 35% extra culture, in addition to having just all the culture you're generating from the Acropoli. You're going to get lots of all-around economy bonuses, but it's not as strong as something like science or a tourism boost for actually threatening a win. And these other two Greek bonuses are solid. I think I said so with Gorgo as well. These are fine bonuses, but he just lacks a way to accelerate a victory condition to make him truly one of the strongest civs. He's still definitely above average, though, so he's probably a B tier leader. Peter is next, the leader in the game who can make the best use out of the work ethic religious belief. So he can very consistently be the first one to a pantheon and a religion with his extra faith and production from Tundra combined with the very cheap Lavra district to get those great people points very quickly. And with his Tundra Stark bias, that means he gets the Tundra Holy Site adjacency bonus almost every time. And in your first few cities, you can almost guarantee having +6 or +7, even +8 Holy Sites that are also giving you production, and that is just a huge boost. He doesn't need much else to be a very strong leader from that. That production boost will help you out through the entire game, and you can do it every time, basically. Unless you get really unlucky and some civ happens to get a couple of faith huts and picks the Tundra Pantheon, you're gonna get all the pieces, the combo pieces you need. These other bonuses he has are I don't even need to go through them. But I mean, he's an S tier just from that ability to use work ethic so well. But the Cossack is sort of an underwhelming, unique unit, and that this thing about getting extra science and culture when you're behind, it won't matter because you're going to be ahead in both science and culture just because of how much stuff you're producing. You'll get a huge army early on to do lots of conquering and getting lots of settlers from faith combined with monumentality in your first golden age. Like, you'll be buying lots of settlers and builders with faith. He just uses all of that early game production and free units to just get so far ahead of everyone else that he's unbeatable. Easy S tier. Very competitive with the other strongest leaders in the game. Now, if you were to ban the use of work ethic or something, he would actually be very weak. He very much relies on being able to get that work ethic belief. But yeah, he should be able to get it every game. So S tier. Spain is up next with Philip. So he gets this mission improvement, which I like. It gives food and production. And even though it's just a tiny bit, it means that you can build a lot more of these without ruining a city's ability to grow and produce things. And it gives some nice little bonuses on top of that as well. Up to 4 faith and 1 science per adjacent holy site in campus means that you'll be getting some decent yields. The science in particular is nice. Extra ways to generate science is very important for a civ to be strong. Although it's not really worth building these if it's not on your, it's not worth building these if it's on your home continent. Since it's only, is it just 2 faith? Yeah, I think it is just the 2 faith if it's on your home continent. And that sort of lines up with how these other bonuses go. The Conquistador I don't like very much. The Musketman comes online in a very awkward part of the game where when you come up to that tech, your science should be high enough that just a few turns later, you should be getting next to the next tier of units with like cavalry or infantry or artillery. You should be able to accelerate past Musketman very, very quickly. This trade bonus is interesting, though. 3 gold, 2 faith, and 1 production on its own is just okay. But when it triples from sending the trade route between continents, that's actually a very significant boost. 9 gold, 6 faith, and 3 production is definitely among one of the stronger trade bonuses. Combine that with the extra production and a free builder on other continents, and once you are able to spread your civilization across continents, he becomes very quite threatening overall with all this power, especially with the mission. It's just a matter of how quickly you can get to other continents. Thankfully, that's the thing that usually doesn't take too long on the continent's map. Like on your main landmass, there should still be another continent that you're able to colonize and start getting all these extra bonuses from. Maybe it's a 20 or 40 turn, maybe even less than that, penalty towards you start getting these bonuses. It's still pretty decent. Combine this with these little extra bonuses to fighting people with other religions, and this is a very, very solid civ. I think he definitely goes into the B tier. we actually have a civ with a lot of similarities to Spanish and how their bonuses are weighed out. They have a unique scout, though, which is sort of cool. I mean, the free promotion means that you have a better chance of getting to that scout promotion where you get the, what is it? I think it's like 20 extra combat strength. I mean, I think it's rare that you'll be able to make strong use of that, but it is kind of funny that sometimes you can get like a super scout that becomes an early game strong conquering unit. But most of the time, I think this isn't too strong. The unique improvement, though, is definitely nice. It gives a little bit of everything: gold, production, food. It's definitely solid, worth building for sure. Not mind blowing or anything. I mean, later on, it can give quite a bit of gold. Although lots of gold from tile improvements is generally a little less valuable than things like just more food production or something like science, like in the case of Spain. And in this case, the trade bonuses that you get also aren't too good. You get a few extra free tiles from trading, some extra trade route capacity, although it's just one trade route capacity, and you're only claiming those tiles that are along your trade route path. And since trade routes take so long to complete, it's hard to make this claim loads of tiles. Your trade routes get a little bit better. You get a little bit of extra gold and food, but it's usually not that much. I mean, like if you compare this to the Spain bonus, maybe here you're getting like a couple extra food, maybe like a couple extra gold. And right after just talking about something that gave you, what was it, 9 gold, 6 faith, and 3 production, this just doesn't stand out as much. The civ is probably still at least average, though. Having that improvement, which gives housing and food, is good. He just lacks some extra punch with his other bonuses to make him that strong. So yes, C tier. Next up is Qin with China. So the China bonuses I have talked about a little bit already with Kublai Khan. I don't like any of them very much. The Great Wall doesn't give food or production. It's a lot of investment for little payout. The Crouching Tiger isn't a very strong combat unit. And this science and culture boost from this Eureka and Inspiration ability is kind of a small bonus as well. The thing that Qin offers is this ability to spend builder charges on wonders, and you get an extra charge. If this applied to every wonder, this would definitely be a little bit more good. But since it only applies to ancient and classical wonders, I don't like it very much. There's only like a couple wonders in the early game that I think are worth spending builder charges on, like pyramids, Temple of Artemis, maybe 1 or 2 others. And none of them are that powerful. Like you can just think of this as a way of guaranteeing that you'll get a couple of decent wonders, but none of the wonders that are available in the ancient or classical era are truly game changing. I don't think he's that good. Probably C or D tier. In fact, I know I'm going to rate the other one lower by a tier, the other version of Qin. So maybe I'll put him at C tier, because I don't think the other one is so bad to go into E tier. Anyway, the other version of Qin, he, instead of that ability to get extra builder charges and spend those on wonders, he gets the Convert Barbarians action. Now, I don't usually play with barbarians, so maybe it's a little unfair for me to evaluate. But I think converting barbarians is kind of inconsistent. They don't always have the best units either, and you have to spend your melee unit to get it. I think this is weak paired with the already substandard bonuses with China. This is definitely a D tier civ. Ramses, I think, is another fortunately weak civ. So he has the Egypt bonuses that I'm not a big fan of. The Sphinx is only strong if he has other bonuses to help with making that appeal or culture bonus worthwhile, which he does not. He's actually, in particular, Ramses wants to build lots of stuff, and the Sphinx is decidedly not an improvement that gives you production. So he really doesn't want to build these at all. Over the other Egypt leaders, he gets 15% culture from building buildings and 30% for wonders. And that's just too small of a bonus to be that useful. Yeah, I can't rate him highly. He's probably below average. That culture boost is just not good. Culture on its own is not strong. Combined, like if you have big culture bonuses, it can accelerate you. But this is a small culture bonus. It's not very good. He's a D tier leader. Next, Robert the Bruce. He gets a ranger replacement. That's not too good, but his other bonuses are quite good. He gets the golf course, which gives you lots of amenities, and that plays nicely into this ability to increase your science and production yield from happy cities. And does it double? Yes, it doubles. So long as you make sure to stay on top of your amenities, you're making an extra 10% science and 10% production. And since you have ways of getting extra amenities, you also be getting that's in addition to the normal boost from happy and ecstatic cities. So this works out to being actually quite a good all-round bonus to all your cities after you get going. The only problem is that it does take a while to get online. I think the golf course takes a little while to unlock. Despite it being a good improvement, I think this civ just takes a little bit too long to become strong to be any good. And this leader ability really does nothing. This War of Liberation, it's hard to meet the requirements for. So there's going to be a lot of games where this doesn't do anything. It's really all about this amenity thing. He's probably at least above average from his ability to just be all round better with that amenity bonus. Right, next up, we got the two versions of Saladin. First, the newer one. He has this, the Arabia bonuses. There are these unique university replacements that I think give 2 extra science in addition to this nice little faith bonus. It's very solid. The Mamluk is actually a very respectable unit for as a unique unit. A knight is a great unit to replace. It's in a good spot in the tech tree, so that's the kind of unit that you'll have available to you for quite some time. And that bonus to heal every turn actually does speed up a conquest quite a bit. So I do quite like that. This next thing about getting the great profit and the extra science per foreign city following the Arabia's religion is also very solid. It's straightforward, but that extra point per city does add up pretty quickly. And it is a nice little bonus for a civ that wants to be doing religion anyway. It definitely helps quite a bit. Now, this Saladin bonus is a little weird. It's the double flanking and support bonus functions a little bit like Ambiorix's bonus, where you can think of getting extra combat strength for adjacent units. But it's not as powerful since it doesn't apply to ranged units. It's just units that attack in melee. So it does affect cavalry, but not ranged units. It's a decent combat bonus. But I think the other. Well, I'll rank this version first, I suppose. The combat bonus is nice. It's not small, and you do get a science bonus, so he is probably B tier. I was just thinking there. I do like this version of Saladin a little bit more. So what he gets is cheaper warship buildings, and those add 10% to science, faith, and culture. And that is, I think that offers a little bit more synergy with his other bonuses, since you're going to be building lots of missionaries and apostles with all that extra faith you're getting. And you'd want to, unlike with some other civs that have a religion and military hybrid bonus, since you're getting extra science from foreign cities, it's not as advantageous to you to be killing opponent civs. So I think this version of Saladin's abilities just synergizes a little bit more. I'm not enough to push him into the A tier. I guess he's also B tier. Yeah, they're similar power levels. I think I just like this version of him more. But since the other combat bonus is sizable, I think they are both solid picks. Next are the two Korea leaders, starting with Sejong. So the Korea bonuses are that they get this unique campus replacement, the Seowon, which has this natural +4 science, which gets -1 science for every adjacent district. So in most of your cities, pretty much all of them, unless you're unlucky and you can't get any hills next to your city, you'll have +4 campuses, which is very strong. Civs that can average anything +3 or greater for a campus are very strong in my mind. So being able to get +4 in every city is incredibly strong. And keep in mind, this is something that you can boost up to +8 with the recorded history card as well. They get the Hwacha, which I think is actually a downgrade to the field cannon since it can't attack and move in the same turn. I mean, you get it quickly, but because it's in the, I think it might even be in the civic tree. It's either in the civic tree or it's in the science tree, and it's a bit earlier. I forget exactly which it is. Either way, you unlock it around the same time as the field cannon, maybe just a little bit earlier. But the fact that you can't move and attack, I think, makes it a little worse. But fortunately, you don't have to use it for very long. By that point in the game, you should be able to move on to either you have other options for units, or you can move on to the next tier of units very quickly, especially with this big boost to science. And yet another boost to science with extra mines next to that special district and extra food for farms next to it. Always a plus to get some extra food and more science. And the leader bonus for Sejong is that he gets double the science per turn as culture. Since he can generate so much science, this usually translates to every time you research a new tech, you get a few turns worth of your current culture per turn in a one-time culture boost, which is nice. It helps you stay just a little bit more competitive in keeping up with other people's culture, making sure you get those important ones like nationalism and each government type around the same time everyone else does without needing to invest more into theater squares. It's a good bonus for sure. He's lacking a boost to production to make him an S tier civ, but with such a big boost to science, he's easily A tier. And so is the other Korea as well, who has a similar bonus. I've lost my place here in the leader menu. There she is. Seondeok, I think, is how you say her name. So instead of that one-time culture boost, she gets 3% extra culture and science for governor titles, or for each governor title that an assigned governor has in a city. So in a few cities, you get something like 10% more science in what are probably your best cities. It's a minor boost, but again, thanks to the high science yields, it does a modest science boost. She's still missing production to make her an S tier, but yes, in both these cases, the science is just too good to make them any lower than A tier. In fact, maybe you can make an argument for low S tier, but they're definitely at least A tier. Next are the Zulus. So they get this unique encampment building. Now, normally I don't like building encampments, but them being cheaper does help. And you also get this extra 1 housing and 2 gold and 1 science, just naturally in the Akanda. I think. Oh, it's building. Yes, that's what it was. Buildings provide the +2 gold and 1 science. And you also create core and army faster. Quite a lot. I don't know the exact number, but the rate at which you produce core and armies is quite high with the Civ. And you do unlock them sooner with the leader bonus. So this ends up being a nice production boost to your military. Saves you for a few turns overall in the game to building an army, which is very nice. However, something to note about this is that, at least currently, there's a bug where in cities that you conquer, you don't get this bonus. You don't get that extra +2 gold and 1 science per building. And without that, he actually does lose quite a bit. With that bonus, if that bonus worked properly, that would be a nice way to keep him relevant in the science and in the science race, and also still have some gold to help afford that army and still be flexible and be able to buy more things. But it just doesn't work, which is really too bad, because otherwise it'd be a pretty interesting bonus and might justify building the encampment a little more often. Anyway, he gets this unique unit, which is kind of cool. It's very cheap to make, and it is quite powerful. And it also, you also get it around the same time, or you should get it around the same time that you're getting core. So you'll have around that time just this big boost to your military's power. The ability to form core with that additional +5 combat strength and this strong unique unit. You have this timing attack, which is very hard to deal with as any other Civ. And a nice little loyalty boost to help you conquer more cities without having to worry about settling close by. Makes that timing attack also just a little more potent as well. Unfortunately, with that bugged 2 science or 1 science and 2 gold thing, and the whack of any other bonuses to give him a boost outside of conquest, it stops him from being great. Probably C tier. If the passive on the Akanda was fixed, I think he'd probably be B tier. Next is Grand Columbia. They have a unique tile improvement, which you do not unlock until quite late in the game. It's a good tile improvement. By the point you get it, though, it doesn't have a big chance to be impactful. Same goes for the unique unit. It's a cavalry replacement, so it takes a little too long to get. And the cavalry isn't something that you will need to build lots of. So it really just comes down to these 2 parts of their bonus, since the unique great person also just is something that you get from the leader ability. So the special great person, the Commandante General, excuse the pronunciation, I think it's 5 combat strength in 1 unit. And I don't know exactly what all the retiring effects are, but it's sort of like an alternate to the Great General, but it also stacks with the Great General. So what you can do is you can get this unit when you get into a new era, build a 1 cannon so you can get an early Great General, and you can get +10 combat strength that way, a lot of extra movement. And that's on top of the +1 to all units that you just get naturally with this leader. And promoting units doesn't end units' turns. You have a very mobile army, and also a mobile civilian workforce with settlers and builders. And that is a big military boost, one of the more powerful military boosts in the game. So it's not only that your units are going to be attacking sooner, and there's less downtime with promoting and healing, and you have higher combat strength. You'll conquer more, you'll conquer faster. Straightforward bonus, but very strong. Probably Probably an A tier civ. Next are the two settlements with the Ottomans. I'll do leader bonus first, and then the civ bonuses for this one. So this settlement gets a unique governor and an extra unique unit. So the unique governor he gets, I really dislike. The best thing about it is that he has a promotion, 2 promotions in, which gives your units fighting nearby 10 combat strength. So while 10 combat strength is a lot, you have to spend 2 governor titles to do it for a bonus that a lot of other good combat civs just get for free. I mean, Ambiorix can get up to 12 combat strength with some of his units, and it doesn't cost him 2 governor titles. And if you wanted it early, you'd need to give up those first 2 governor titles, which is horrible because then you need to give, like, you're taking that away from Pingala, and the early game Pingala boost to either science or culture is just too big to give up for this unique governor, and it doesn't scale well at all into the later game since, well, I don't know. I guess, yeah, I think it's just the unique. The plus 10 combat strength is good. It just takes too much investment to get online. And I think it does give you extra loyalty over a regular governor, but yeah, it's just not good enough for the investment you need to get for it. And that Janissary that you get is maybe the worst unique unit in the game. It is cheaper, but not really. It says it's cheaper to train, but it isn't really, because it costs a pop to build. If you build this unit, you lose a pop in your city like a settler. Awful unit. This unique naval unit is also very underwhelming. It's a raiding unit, and those are pretty much always bad unless you're Norway. You get this Grand Bazaar, which it's... I mean, one amenity per luxury resource is okay, but yeah, I dislike this building. And he also gets 50% production towards siege class units and an extra 5 combat strength for them. But it's you don't need it. It's a unit that you're only going to build 1 or 2 of. I find myself buying that unit most of the time, so I can buy it in a city that's close to the front and just wheel it into spot because they're very slow. And a little loyalty boost, which you can basically ignore. I dislike this leader. The amenities and a tiny bit of extra production, and later on having a combat boost at least puts him in C, but his bonuses just take too long to be any good. And with the other Solomon, he has a very weird bonus. Extra 15% science and culture when a golden or heroic age, which sometimes I've had games where I struggle to get even 1 golden age. You can just be unlucky with things like huts and wonders and great people, where you end up just getting very few of them. So this translates to 15% extra science and culture sometimes, or alternatively, a +4 combat strength against some opponents. There's just too many. There's too many conditions for this ability to be any good, and even if you do manage to trigger it, both 15% science and culture or 4 combat strength, neither of these bonuses is big enough to make him any good. Also a C tier leader. Next is the alternate Mali leader. He, over Mansa Musa, instead of that trade bonus per flat desert tile, he gets this bonus towards gold in production per great work of writing. And you can also get a few more great people, or you can get great writers a little bit easier. 20% less gold to recruit great people, and the market gains 2 great writing slots. So I'm not a huge fan of this as a replacement for Mansa Musa's ability. It overall does not give you nearly as much gold, I think. In a city, you're not going to be able to max out great writers in every city. I compare from Mansa Musa's bonus, maybe you'll get a dozen extra gold per trade route or more from all the desert tiles. And that's per trade route. So in one city, you'd be getting, maybe hundreds of gold from the trade route bonus once you fully get going. Whereas these great works of writing, I don't know exactly how many great works of writing you can expect. Let's be generous and say you get 20, which I don't think you would. That would still only be 80 gold. And you would be getting this production, that 2 production per great work of writing. But keep in mind, this 2 production is not as good as 2 production on another civ, because you still get that 30% penalty towards constructing units and buildings. So it's not as good as it initially seems. I think he's a little bit weaker than Mansa Musa. He has less potential, and I think his bonus is even slower to start getting going because you just don't have that. You don't have that early trade bonus like Mansa Musa does, and 20% less gold to recruit great people is weird as well, because you're going to want to be spending most of your gold on buildings and units a lot of the time. I don't think you'll have the gold left over to buy great people, especially when you're already making less gold than Mansa Musa. This might be D tier. I'll put him at the same tier as Mansa Musa, but I think he's probably weaker. Maybe not so much weaker that he's in D tier, since I think that gold in production is still worth something. Yeah, he gets C tier for now. Next up, Tamar, Georgia. You have this men-at-arms replacement that is unremarkable. You get these unique walls, though, low production cost and some extra tourism and faith. It's a very cool building, I suppose. In that they look cool, and you can get actually a decent amount of tourism and faith from them. You can build them in every city fairly easily, and get that. I forget how much walls give base, but I guess this one's just +3 tourism and 4 faith total, up to 6 tourism and 8 faith. And it's actually a little easier to get golden ages with the civ than others, since you can get, or to chain golden ages, since you can always get those normal age bonuses that give you extra points towards your next era. So you can get that extra faith and tourism fairly easily. Unfortunately, they do not have many other things to make that too strong. The leader bonus is very, very underwhelming. It doesn't synergize with these other bonuses at all. 50% faith from combat victories is not a lot of faith. You need a lot of faith for it to be useful. I mean, faith can be used for a good variety of things, but you just won't get that much from this bonus here. You do get that double envoys towards city-states that you convert, which is kind of cool, but that doesn't help you in making use of this tourism bonus. I think for the wall bonus to really do anything, you need... I think there's just not enough here to make this a strong civ for any victory type in particular. It's not a lot of faith generation. It's not a lot of tourism generation. And more defense. If you need the defensive bonuses, like if they're working for you and your cities are killing more units than those would be, I think you're already kind of losing. You should generally not be on the defensive. You generally speaking, you should not be on the defensive. You should be on offense, taking over stuff. On being on the defense sort of means that you're in a losing position. So I think I have to rate this civ D tier. Moving on to Bull Moose Teddy. and the other version of Teddy as well. I will start with the Teddy Bolmus bonus. He gets +2 science for breathtaking tiles next to a natural wonder or mountains, and +2 culture for breathtaking tiles next to wonder or woods. And cities with a national park have +1 appeal. So this can be amazing. You can have one of the strongest starts of any other civ if you start in an area with lots of breathtaking tiles. It doesn't always happen. But you can fairly quickly get the city park special improvement with, I think it's Liang, you can get that improvement with, and very quickly you can get cities with loads of science and culture yields on all your tiles. And if you somehow find yourself in enough production, you can also build preserves and just get crazy yields on tiles in terms of science and culture and all those other things. And it can be very fun. Although I don't think that preserves are really always worth building with this leader without having since he doesn't have a big production bonus. Regardless, this is a sizable science and culture boost on average, I think, especially if you get a strong start. The America bonuses, I guess I talked about them a little bit with Abe Lincoln already. None of them are very good, but this leader bonus is very strong. It puts him into the A tier easily. The other Teddy, he gets +5 combat strength on his home continent, and he gets double envoys to city-states with a trade route. A little bit like the Georgia bonus of being able to get double trade routes, double envoys to cities that you've converted. It's not going to do much for you. Maybe you have a slightly easier time conquering your first civ than other civilizations, but this bonus definitely falls off. It's another situation where it can help you on defense, but you shouldn't be in a defensive situation many times in a game. And if you are, there's probably something going wrong, I think. This is actually fairly weak. He might be... he might be D tier. So I think that's fair. Just these other bonuses don't do much. I mean, you get the Rough Rider, but that also is kind of a late game unit, which I don't like. Yeah. And it's just, it's kind of funny because there's such a big gap between those two versions of Teddy, but I think that's correct. I think this version, the Bolmus Teddy is A tier, and Rough Rider Teddy is D tier. Moving on to Theodora, the ultimate Byzantium leader. So, like with Basil, these bonuses that Byzantium gets are very nice. You get the free, you still get the free horsemen, the free heavy cavalry with the unique entertainment complex, and it's a nice district that is useful to build a lot of to begin with. You get those extra % yields in your empire and extra growth. You still get that combat bonus and this lackluster unique unit. But instead of being able to deal full damage to walls that you've converted with your religion, you get this bonus where holy sites give culture equal to their adjacency bonus, and farms give faith adjacency to the entertainment complex buildings, to the entertainment complex replacement and holy sites. And remember that the holy sites also get that culture from the faith that you're giving from the farms. So this works out to being a very large culture bonus on top of a civ that has a very good combat bonus. So you'll get to nationalism quicker, and you can get your units into armies and corps, and you can have a very strong army at that point in the game, combined with the other combat bonus, with also a large army from all the free cavalry you're getting. This is also a civ where you can get a decent work ethic religion going, since you have extra great profit points from the cities with a holy site. So you're more likely to get that first religion and get to select the work ethic belief before anyone else. Maybe not as quick as Peter, but probably the civ that can get that belief the second most often without having a reliance on needing a pantheon to get that high adjacency bonus, because you can just build lots of farms next to your holy site, and it's much easier to plan that in a bunch of cities than having to build cities around tundra or rainforest or desert, like the pantheon things. So all that combined, this is definitely a solid leader. Probably A tier, just like the other Byzantium. Probably a little bit stronger than Basil overall. I think the Basil bonus of just having more conquering ability is a little overkill on a civ that already has some strong conquering bonuses. So the culture and faith adjacency is a welcome change, but they're both very solid picks. Both of the Byzantium leaders, both are A tier. Now Tokugawa. So he is a Japan leader who is also very good. That Japan bonus with the standard adjacency bonuses for each district is incredible. That's still, like with Hojo, if he didn't have a leader ability, he would still be an S tier, but he actually does have a decent leader ability here. So you don't get those half construction times on districts, which is a little bit of a shame, at least on those select districts, but you get this very powerful domestic trade route bonus. It's +1 culture, science, and 2 gold for each specialty district at the destination if it's a domestic trade route. And some other token bonuses and penalties, but that's the main thing. You get a penalty towards international trade routes, but you're going to want to do domestic trade routes anyway from this big domestic trade route bonus. You'll very quickly have cities with 3, maybe even up to 5 specialty districts from a fairly early point in the game. And there are going to be strong districts as well, keep in mind. But you're going to have cities with lots of specialty districts. So this will be giving, maybe 3 science, 3 culture, and 6 gold on top of the regular domestic trade bonuses. And that's not a gigantic bonus, but it's on top of what is already an incredible bonus to yields from this civilization ability. So, yeah, easy S tier. Next up is Thamyris with the Scythians. So you get this unique tile improvement, which is underwhelming, just a tiny bit of faith and gold. I think it's not even worth building these. Maybe you can get, I forget exactly when you unlock them. I think it's early. Maybe you can get, no, actually, I think mostly this does nothing. I don't think you build these. Same with this horse archer unit. I think it's worse than other things you can build around the same time. But you do get double light cavalry. Every time you train a light cavalry unit or your unique unit, you get a copy of it. So this gives you a gigantic military boost. Light cavalry is a good combat class for sure, and it's one that I think really benefits from having double units, since it's with their lower combat strength than heavy cavalry. I find myself often sort of throwing these units at problems, so it's not uncommon to have them die. So getting double of them definitely is a big help to making them much more useful. In addition to this +5 combat strength on attacking wounded units and a heal on killing units, this just gives you a huge amount of momentum. You can build just huge amounts of light cavalry, just throw them at all the civs around you, conquer very, very fast. She lacks bonuses to the economy, since this tile improvement isn't very good. But with such a big conquering boost that lets you conquer very quickly, get a big empire very quickly, I can't put this leader anywhere lower than A tier. Is Trajan, the other Rome leader. So the Rome bonuses are a little underwhelming, like with Caesar. The Bath is nice, and so are the extra roads, but they're on their own not that good. But he does get this extra free city center building for every city that he makes, which I think is usually a monument. Maybe in other parts of the game it changes to other buildings. I'm not sure, but this essentially works out to a very sizable lead to culture generation in the early game. And that's a solid bonus. It means you're getting to those early government civics a little bit earlier, which is a decent economic boost. You have to build fewer theater squares than an average civ, since you're getting that lots of culture generation from all those monuments. And usually, I don't find the reason I'm saying this is a big culture boost is because I don't find there's usually time to build monuments in my cities. All that production needs to go towards units or districts, and monuments is one of the last things I build. I think this is one of the few leaders which actually wants monuments or has them. It's not that he wants them; he just happens to get them. And that, I think, probably makes them B tier. You can get an early oligarchy. You can go for oligarchy early and have a slightly easier time conquering than other civs, especially with this trade route road bonus. The extra mobility and the extra culture, I think, makes him solid. I find him very boring to play, but he's definitely a solid leader. And next up, we have the 2 Victorias. I'll skip over the England bonuses since I've gone over them a couple times already. But the bottom line being that I don't think they're that strong. Aside from that late game +4 towards powered buildings. So this leader, you get an extra free melee unit and trade route capacity when you're founding your first city on another continent. So a few extra melee units and a few extra trade routes, because I think this is per other continent over the course of the game. And you'll also get some free navy units that I don't like getting free navy units. I think even if you have a navy, you'll maybe only find 1 or 2 cities that you'll be able to conquer with it. So I don't like that too much. The extra trade routes and the melee units is okay. But yeah, none of these bonuses really stand out to me. She might be. Whoops! That's the other Victoria. This one, the Age of Empire Victoria. She might still get C tier, since that in the late game it is nice to have those powered yields, and the trade routes and the extra units might give you a little bit of an early boost. I'll say C tier. But the other Victoria, though, is actually a very good leader. 10% production per industrial zone building. So that's up to, workshop, factory, power plant. 30% production in cities, which is a big boost. That's like a free Ruhr Valley. And +2 production to all strategic resources. And that's without needing to improve them. 2 production. Unlike with the Mali leader, you don't get the penalty with 2 production. It's just full on 2 production, and that's per strategic resource. You might have a bunch of these in a single city. And the fact that this is available early, if you get animal husbandry right away, you are getting this +2 production from horses very early. And early production is just so killer. And once you do everything faster, you'll get to that +4 yields from powered buildings much more quickly. And this +20% production towards industrial buildings actually helps out quite a lot, because you're going to want to build more industrial zones than normal, since you're getting that big production boost. Combined with that production boost, that 10% is also working on that +2 production per strategic resource. So it works out to being lots of production. You get those extra yields faster. This is definitely an above average civ. B or A tier. I'm going to say A tier. That feels right. Wilfrid Laurier, Canada. The unique unit, the Mountie, is kind of cool. Being able to create multiple national parks saves you on faith later on to the game. This is a save that wants to go for culture victories. So this is nice. It makes so you can spend a little bit less production on holy sites. You might be able to get away with not building them at all, actually. Generally, when you go for tourism victories, you want a few holy sites. You can build rock bands and naturalists. The Mountie can cover some of that cost, although it is a modern era unit. I think you get it pretty late in the game, so it might not be that good. Yeah, I mean, I think this works out to being an okay tourism boost. You might be able to get, if you're lucky, you might be able to get these just in time for national parks to make some sort of difference. I guess if I'm rating the America Film Studio low, I would have to rate this quite low as well. Although this isn't exactly the same as the film studio, because you can build these in every city, I think. Unlike the film studio, where you need the theater squares and then it's a building you need to make. So I think this is a little bit better. You get the ice hockey rink, which is a very nice tile improvement. It gives a little bit of everything, including lots of culture and tourism. Another nice plus towards the culture victory. And this weird diplomacy thing where you can't declare surprise wars or have them declared on you. What that works out to being is that you can manage doing denouncements on other leaders, and it's not that hard to declare war on who you want, except for city-states, because this means you can't declare war on city-states at all unless you're fighting their suzerain. And that actually does hurt a little bit. There are a lot of times where you want to kill a city-state to make some room in an area or move to your next opponent. So that definitely hurts. You get a nice little diplomatic favor boost. But I think I've said before, I think diplomatic favor, the game shouldn't go on long enough for diplomacy to really matter. This is the kind of bonus that I think is a lot stronger playing on a high difficulty, or if you're playing against lots of very skilled players. But most of the time, that diplomatic favor isn't going to do much. The leader bonus, though, lets you use tundra tiles really well. You get to build some nice farms and lumber mills and mines in tundra and snow. And it's one of those bonuses where you can settle more of the map. You can have more cities. The map will support more cities than your average civ with this ability. And that's kind of nice. And with the start bias to go into the tundra, these +2 production and food is actually enough to make your start a little bit faster than average, unless you get really unlucky with the resources available around you. Like if you spawn in the middle of just like a whole bunch of woods, this can actually be a little annoying. You have to do some chopping first. And lumber mills will take a little while. But most of the time, this works out to being a nice little accelerator in the early game. So he has early production, some help with tourism. City-states. You can't fight city-states. This is a tough one to rank. I used to think Canada was fairly weak with the penalties, but he might actually be all right. The food and production boost, I think, can't be overlooked. And I think the penalty of not being able to kill city-states most of the time won't hurt you too badly. I think the other abilities make up for it. So I'm going to say B tier. If I was ranking them in the tiers, it'd be a low B tier. But I think Canada does just make B tier. Next is Wilhelmina with the Dutch. You get a unique navy unit that I don't like very much. You get this, but you also get this unique tile improvement, which looks very cool. But and it's actually a pretty solid tile improvement. It gives you nice yields, lots of food production, gold, housing. These are nice things. But the placement requirements for this tile improvement makes it very, very underwhelming. I've had games where in my whole empire, and that's after I've done a bunch of conquering and settling other continents, I'm still only able to build just just a handful of these, like maybe a couple cities that happen to be near some good lakes can build these in a few tiles. It's a good improvement when you can build it, but since you can build so few of them, it ends up not doing much. The Civ bonus here, though, is pretty good. A major adjacency bonuses for campuses, theater squares, industrial zones next to a river. There are times where this doesn't line up with, especially with the campus, the river might not line up with where the other spots that you want to place it down for adjacencies, like it might not be next to mountains or geothermal fissures, which can be annoying. But for the industrial zone in particular, that can be very nice, since all the districts that you want to build for an industrial zone also need to be next to a river, the aqueduct and the dam. And you also have an easier time building the dam. That works out to being, I think, on average, a decent boost to these three yields: culture, production in particular, and science. Since there usually are quite a few rivers, you'll be able to get rivers in most of your cities. This leader bonus, though, is basically nothing. I think +2 loyalty for trade routes in the starting city is very small. I don't think it's worth holding on to your traders to do these trade. I don't know. There's probably something cool you can do where you have just a bunch of traders in reserve, conquer somewhere remote or settle somewhere remote, transfer the traders to there and start trading for a bunch of loyalty. But I think most of the time, if you have enough trade routes for this to matter, it's better just to trade elsewhere. And this culture boost, I think, is kind of negligible as well. There might be some games where lots of people are trading with you, and this will be a big culture boost. And there'll be other games where you're barely getting any trade at all, and this will do nothing. So I think the Civ mostly gets evaluated on the adjacency bonus here, since these other things usually don't. These other bonuses usually don't do much, but that is powerful. Adjacency bonus for a campus is always going to be strong, as well as the industrial zone. She probably just gets, I was going to say B tier. Does she make A? I do like science boosts, but that's tricky. That's very tricky. Let's say that she is A tier. No, I've changed my mind. She's in B tier. I think because I do find that is a problem. I do find that it is hard to get bonuses. Like, you kind of need everything to align properly to get this this adjacency thing to work nicely with campuses. Even if you do have a river, you might just want to place the campus next to mountains anyway. Or if you are using that bonus, another Civ could just place it somewhere else that also would have made an extra +2. So, yes. B tier seems fair. Only 2 leaders left, both for China, which it's now just sort of striking me just how many leaders there are for China in this game. I think they're the Civ with the most alternate leaders. Anyway, I don't like the China bonuses very much. But this leader, she gets, I think, does she get an extra spy as well? Yeah, she gets an extra spy with defensive tactics. So you get an early spy, and also faith, culture, and science that the city produced over the course of your spy operations. Spies are something that I don't use very much, so I may underrate this, but I think this bonus works out to, or this leader overall, works out to being quite weak. The China bonuses aren't very strong, and even if you are staying on top of spies, making sure you're building a lot of them and using them from as early as you can, you're only getting that extra faith, culture, and science from that one city you're operating in. And I think even if you max out on your spies, it's just like a few extra cities that you're deploying this on. I guess if you scouted out all of your opponent's best cities, you could be making a decent amount more. That's interesting. It's very interesting. It might work out to be a decent bonus. Oh, it's a tentative D tier. I think there's some potential there. It's a leader. If somebody told me that this leader is actually like A tier because you can steal your opponent's yields, I probably could be convinced. But if your opponents are bad and they aren't producing much, or they've spread out their yields in a bunch of their cities, then this spy bonus isn't going to do that much. Very interesting. Yeah, I'll say D tier for now, but I feel like I could be convinced otherwise. And that brings me to the final civ of this list, Yongle, the other China leader, the last China leader here. So instead of that other bonus, he still gets all the usual China bonuses, but he gets 2 gold, 1 science, and 1 culture per pop for cities that have at least 10 population. He also has the option to convert production into food, faith, or gold, and that can help you get to that 10 pop a little bit quicker. But the main bonus here is definitely this part about being able to make extra gold, science, and culture, and it is a sizable bonus. When you're looking to build cities up to 10 pop, it's not that hard to do. You just space your cities out a little bit more, build lots of extra farms, maybe make sure you're harvesting rainforest and marshes. And you can get this in most of your cities and be making a large amount of extra gold, science, and culture. Like 10. Once you get to 10 pop, that's 10 science, 10 culture, and 20 gold. That's a lot. I mean, sure, the other bonuses aren't that good, but that's just enough raw yields to make this civ strong, at least A tier, maybe low S tier. Yeah, it's tricky. I think I'll just keep him in A tier since these other S tiers I think are a little more threatening in multiple categories. Yongle just, despite having this big bonus, it does take a little time to start to get it going. Not enough time to make him any lower than A tier. But I think that is what separates him from the S tier, is the time that it takes to get that bonus, and only having the one particularly strong aspect. A lot of those other S tiers, the S tiers, have multiple bonuses, or bonuses that, like in the case of Peter, are just available from right out of the gate. Now, before I wrap this tier list up and move around some of these leaders, there actually was an update that came out while I was recording. So I want to just go through and see if that changes anything first. There's just 3 leaders that were affected, I think. First was Abraham Lincoln. They gave him 2 amenities on industrial zones. I think that's too small of a buff to really change my stance on him, so he remains in E tier. Let's see, who else was changed? It was the newer Herald, I think. He now gets a little bit more culture, faith, and science. It's the influence points from the Stave Church, so you can get a few more envoys over the course of the game. Envoys on their own, yes, he does have the levying bonus, but this is still much weaker than Hungary's levying bonus. It's maybe probably fewer envoys and less of a good discount on units. I'd much rather have, I think the discount on upgrading units is a little bit better than the discount on levying units. And 2 less gold on maintenance is pretty small as well. It'll be low double digits of gold that you're saving at any one time. A very minor bonus. So he's still D tier as well. And there was one more. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. Oh, right. That's right. That's why I was having a hard time remembering. The West leader that they changed was the new China, and when I recorded the Wu's at Tian, my assessment on her, they already had the new updated amount, so that one's fine. Okay, with that done, now I can go on and see if I need to make any other changes to the tier list. Looking here, I think this is mostly correct. I think everyone is roughly in the spot they need to be. I might be off by a tier. I think maybe Ptolemaic Cleopatra might be a tier better than this. The appeal bonus actually is pretty nice, and you because of the floodplain start bias, you can get very good early. I think it's how do you say it? Like the wonder that gives you the science and production on floodplains that can be very good on Ptolemaic Cleopatra, and you can also get really good value at the breathtaking Pantheon and preserves. I don't know. Maybe the preserve strat makes her a little bit better as well. Yeah, she can be B tier. I think also the Magnificence Catherine. I was looking through the bonuses and doing a little bit of extra testing. I think this is actually a very solid tourism and culture boost that you can get. So I think I'll move her up a tier as well. And there might be someone here that I want to move up. I think you can actually get some good value with Philip. With the production bonus, especially, if you funnel all of the extra production from your trade routes into one city, you get basically your pick of all the wonders in the game, so long as you meet the requirements in that one city. And you have a decent science bonus. Yeah, that probably does push it over the edge. And then this way, I don't have multiple rows in the C tier, which I like. Is there anyone that I want to move down? Let's see. No, I think this is about right. Okay, that does it. Peace.